Without a basic understanding of how rock, paper, scissors, or in general Okizeme works in Third Strike, as well as how some of the more advanced option selects work on offense and defense, it's going to be hard to really showcase how to gather information, what you're looking for, and how to condition your opponent. So if you're a lower to mid-level player and you haven't watched my video on that, I highly suggest doing so, and I'll put a link in the description below. But if you're comfortable with all that information, or you simply just want to see the, I guess, next level of thinking required in order to advance your gameplay, then this might be for you. So for the most part, it's going to be for the mid-level to upper mid-level player, as most of the high-level players will already know this information, but there may be something for them as well. The basic idea about gathering information is that you're going to be committing to actions to see how your opponent reacts to it. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a goal in mind for your action that is outside of gathering that information. So a perfect example of this is, let's say I'm playing Yang, and I knock my opponent down, and I want to continue pressuring, so I'm going to go for a low, right? Now, if I go for this low afterward, and they block it, well, that gives me a little bit of information. And then it lets me continue to gather information based on what the opponent does every other time that I knock them down, or in a similar situation. So the goal of this is to show you how you can get information from the decisions that your opponent is making when you are interacting with them. So whether that's on Okizeme or whether you are at a specific spacing on the screen and you're making particular choices. So Yang might be trying to dive kick in so that he can get that dive kick into stand leg kick EX Rekka. Or he might be trying to dive kick in so that he can go for a Kara throw. Or do a crouching leg kick into EX Rekka. He has a lot of decisions that he can make off of this one choice. From this spacing, he can, make these 3 different decisions. And, he can also just empty jump throw. He can jump in and attack. There's all sorts of different things that he can do. But you have to decide how you want to approach the situation at first to see what your opponent aims to do to deal with your decisions. And after you've shown them the initial decision that you've made, so let's say that I showed them the dive kick, are they blocking the dive kick the second time? Are they trying to parry the dive kick the second time? What's going through their head and how are they defending? So I'm going to be covering this from both the offensive and defensive sides of the coin. First, we're going to be going over some situations on offense in which your opponent has been knocked down, so it's going to be Okizeme, and then we're going to go through what decisions that you make and what the opponent's actions are in response to those, and see what information that actually gives you. It's an exercise to try to get you to think about exactly what options your opponent has and what they're actually using. And then figuring out what to do once you have the information of what their first instinct for defense might be. We're also going to go over some of the situations from a defensive point of view as well, because being able to see the same situation from both sides matters quite a bit. Now, one of the things that's very important is that when you are approaching situations, you have to understand what your opponent's toolkit is. And if you don't understand what your opponent's options are, then you're always going to be at a disadvantage. So this is under the assumption that you know what Yang's options are on Oki, or you know what Ryu's options are on Oki or defense or anything like that, or any other character combination that I'm going to show. So for the most part, this video is going to be for intermediate players that are looking to get that little bit of extra information to get to the next level of play. However, because I want this to be accessible to, a vast majority of players looking to get better at the game in general, I'm going to go over some of the options that characters have in a given situation, just so that you can sort of be caught up to speed. So if you're trying to fight above your weight class, so to speak, you won't be completely left in the dust. The information will be here so that you can digest it properly over time. So the first situation we're going to be talking about is knocking your opponent down with a Wreckage in the corner. Now after you've knocked your opponent down, you can walk up and throw. You can walk up and do a meaty high. You can walk up and do a meaty low. And those are the very basic options that you have. There are a lot more choices that you can make based on the characters that you're playing against and the type of risky decision making that you might want to take. So, although there are a lot of permutations of how this situation can occur, what we're going to be specifically looking at is what happens when you're trying to get information from your opponent by starting with a low attack, and specifically a low attack into Wreckage. So right now Ryu is set to do 8 different actions when he gets hit by something. So here's an example where he's just jumping. Now, we've already gone over some of the options that Yang has. So Ryu has to be thinking about that Yang is going to be going up for a throw, that he's going to be going up for a high meaty, a low meaty, and all of that stuff, right? So we're going to be looking to use low attacks only and seeing how Ryu decides to defend. And we have 8 different options that he has to defend, so something has to work, right? So let's knock him down a bunch. So in this case, we have just won a round by simply going low into Wreckage over and over and over again. Now, this is an impractical sort of explanation of things. However, it is a possible situation that may occur. Now, the important thing to understand is what Ryu's defensive options could be. And we're going to go through the 8 different replays that I have Ryu set to be. So, when I go to my recordings and I look to have him do things, he just forward parried. He tried to jump. So forward parry, tries to jump, tries to wake up with standing heavy punch to catch you trying to throw him or trying to delay your attack. Trying to throw you in order to tech your throw, or simply just throw you. Blocking high. Option parrying forward and then jumping to cover a meaty high and then jumping a potential throw. Tatsumaki and Shoryu, non-EX Shoryu. Now the reason why this is important is because regular Shoryu and Tatsumaki are both susceptible to lows. So unless Ryu does EX Shoryu, so let me showcase this. There's no way for Ryu to actually hit me, because he's not invulnerable to lows. And the same thing exists for Ken. If Ken wakes up and does light punch DP or medium punch DP, he is susceptible to that low forward into Rekka, just like Ryu was for his normal DP and his Tatsu. So these sort of interactions are something that you need to be cognizant of, especially on offense, and especially on defense if you want to make these risky decisions to go for, you know, Shoryu or something like that. Because let's say that I choose for him to do the recording instead, and I go back to him doing Shoryu. Right? So if I knock him down, and I go for a high meaty instead, that Shoryu works. So when you have this information, you can sort of see what your opponent is looking to do. So if we go through and I randomize this again, and we do 3 knockdown situations, and it's successfully low every single time, what information does that give you as the Yang player? So I want you to pause the video and think about it if you need to. The answer is that you get basically no information whatsoever. And this is the reason why I have this as the first example. Because it's deceptive that Ryu has so many options that he can try to avoid all of your different choices, but if Yang just hard commits to going low every single time, and Ryu's baseline option or baseline defensive choice is not to just simply block low or guard jump, then he's susceptible to just being looped like this. So if you are specifically doing these, Rekka pressure into, low again, that time it caught him crouching. And that means that it caught him in the middle of trying to input that Tatsu because I messed up the input. But for the most part, you're not getting a whole lot of information from this. All you're getting is that it's working. And as the Yang, that just shows you that you should continue to go low until your opponent gives you a reason not to. Now, if you try to go deeper into things and you're thinking, okay, well, he might be high parrying over and over and over again, or he might be trying to jump out over and over and over again. There's 8 different choices that he could have that all have the same result. So you realistically have no way of knowing what your opponent is looking to do. And this is why having a set of actions that you may choose to go for matters a lot. So the next situation that we're going to be showcasing is going to be using these same characters and is going to have a little bit different results. So we're going to be going over the exact same situation where we knock Ryu down with a Rekka, and then we go for another decision on his Okizeme and see how he defends. And then after that, if there is a way that Ryu is defeating our choices, we have to figure out how can we get around the decision that he is making. And that's the beginning of Mindgames. So we're going to go over a couple knockdowns. First time, we're going to go for a meaty high, and then that is blocked. Now, the second time, we're going to walk up and try to Zempo him. He jumps it. And then the third time, we're going to walk up and go low. He blocks it. What does this tell you? So there's a couple seconds to think of what your opponent is doing, right? Now that we've thought about what your opponent is doing, what is he actually doing? He's blocking, and he's jumping. And in this case, he's jumping out of the corner instead of neutral jump. So that shows you that he is using guard jump. And this is something that I go over in my rock, paper, scissors, and option select video that I had made beforehand. And when you understand how this works, you have to know how you can defeat it. So as the Yang player, if I know that my opponent likes to use guard jump as a way of defending against decisions, whether that's specifically after a set of Rekkas or a single Rekka, I can let him jump and then make a decision after the fact. This also means that I can neutral jump to stop him just trying to jump out. He has to react to that jump on his own and press a button, in which case you can jump parry. So this is how layers are added and Mindgames begin. So in order to actually defeat this, you'll see that he blocks low if you try to meaty. Well, if you properly time your stuff, you can actually force your opponent to get hit when they're in the startup animation of the jump portion of the guard jump. Because what they're doing is they're making it so that if you throw, they are jumping the throw. They're airborne usually for most characters on frame 3. They're considered airborne on frame 3. Unlike some characters like Chun-Li who can use forward roundhouse to be off the ground on frame 1. So in this case, this allows me to delay my decision as to when I'm doing my crouching medium kick in order to hit him. So as you can see here, I'm walking forward with Yang, and I'm whiffing crouching light punch, and depending on how long I wait to do my crouching medium kick, it will either hit him if he's guard jumped, or he'll block it if he's just straight blocking. Another important thing to understand is that when you go for these sort of knockdowns, you can hit them on the way up. So depending on your spacing and your character's decisions, you can stop them from ever leaving the ground like I just did, and like I did here, or you can be in a situation where you hit them and you reset them out of it. Now this forces a repeat situation because even though they're not being knocked down, they're coming back to the ground and are now coming back at a state where they are also unthrowable. So in this exact scenario, when they get reset, they can now guard jump again if they so choose. So if you've been giving this information and you have determined that they are guard jumping, and you've determined that you have ways to defeat this, it all depends on if the opponent actually consistently will go for this defensive option. And because it is a very safe option, a lot of players have this as a default decision, as a way of, on defense, checking how the opponent wishes to conduct their offense. So this is going to be discussing another knockdown situation, and the things that are important are the meaty high, the meaty low, and then the throw. And then also slight delayed crouching medium kick or slight delayed close standing medium punch. So the first time that we throw our opponent, they block. The second time we throw our opponent, we get a crouching medium kick DP DP. Now what's important to note is that the double DP happening here sets up another knockdown. And it's very similar in spacing to the throw, however Ken is one step backwards. So if Ken does double DP and he takes a step forward, it's the exact same situation as happened previously with the throw. So this is the situation that happens next. The third time that we throw our opponent, they down parry our crouching medium kick. So now when we double DP Necro, we walk forward and do a crouching medium kick, and that is parried. The next time that we go to throw our opponent, we throw them again. The next time that we throw our opponent, we go for another throw and the opponent jumps out. So think about what these interactions strung together actually mean. What information does it give you? The most important part is that this starts with a defensive action from your opponent. They block. So this means that their first choice is either guard or guard jump when they have no information from you, assuming that this is the first knockdown of the game or whatever, right? Or first Oki situation in the corner. Now, after that close standing medium punch, you're still in range to throw. So in this exact scenario, you're going to assume that a tick throw happens. When that tick throw occurs, the next knockdown, your crouching medium kick hits them. So now you have to think back to situation 1, in which what are all the reasons that the opponent could have been hit low? They could have jumped. They could have tried to press a button. Necro's back medium punch is really good. Or they could have tried to parry. Or they could have just been blocking high. There's a lot of decisions that your opponent could have made. But they get hit low, and then you go into DP-DP, which sets up your walk forward crouching medium kick, which then gets parried. Now that your opponent has a successful interaction with you, the next time that they get knocked down in the corner and you throw them, you go for another throw and it's successful. Great. Now what does this show you? Well, the opponent now doesn't have any information. only how the previous set of interactions went. And they know that you threw them high, you went high, and you went low. So at this point, it's rock, paper, scissors. Now you throw them a second time. So your opponent now has some information to go off of, what your last decision was. And then you go for a throw again. And then they jump out. Now, that last jump out is very telling, because either it means that they have established that your only decisions that you're going to be making are meaties or throws, in which guard jump beats both of those, or they're still going through dealing with you coupling your decisions. Because if you did crouching medium kick twice, where you successfully got crouching medium kick the BTP, and then you went for it again, or tried to super off of it, or whatever, and was unsuccessful because of the parry, then there's a very high likelihood that you're going to try to couple your decisions again. Especially if a throw in this case might win the round. Because with 4 interactions like this, it's very likely that that could be the case. And game state is something that's very important when thinking about opponents' options as well. When you think about their meter, how much life they have, how much life you have. And this is something that we might touch on a little bit later as far as situational awareness goes. But in this exact scenario, the only thing that matters is that the opponent threw you, and that all previous interactions had meaties or throws. There was no delay, no nothing. So the defender now can freely guard jump, because they don't have to worry about you really making these decisions until you show them that they have to respect that those decisions can come. So regardless now if they guard jumped or just held up because you had been coupling your decisions, doesn't matter. As the person on offense, you now have to recognize that making the same decision twice in a row is a hindrance to your performance. So regardless of if the opponent is just simply guessing, in which could be a very possible outcome, or they're making educated decisions based on other interactions that you've had in your match, could be the case as well. If you repeat actions multiple times before changing up what you're doing, whether it's in neutral or by jump-ins or whatever, that could very much carry over into your Okuzeme, and that's something that you as a player have to think about. But at the same time, later on we'll be talking about how multiple decisions in the same vein can be used as conditioning tools. So the Ken player could technically be conditioning his opponent to think that multiple decisions of the same type are coming. But in this case, he's actually just doing things twice, with the exception of that first close standing medium punch. So with these interactions, going into round 2, both the person on offense and defense has a good understanding of the type of things that the opponent is looking to do, both on offense and on defense. The person on defense is looking to react mostly to the previous decision that the player on offense made. And the person on offense is usually coupling their decisions. So defending against the person on offense becomes a little bit easier. It means that there is less risky decisions that need to be taken by the Necro player. So this can shape how the next round goes. And this is where the Ken now has to change what he's doing. Otherwise, it could end up going a lot worse for him if he maintains these same habits. And this is one of the important things that you as a player, especially as a defender, have to understand what the opponent likes to do. And it's equally important as the person on offense to see what the opponent likes to do in response to your choices. So if you, as Ken, now realize, okay, every time that my opponent makes a decision, it's a repeat of my previous decision, or is a counter to my previous decision, then you either go 2 steps ahead or 2 steps back to the beginning. Or you intentionally do something that allows them to make a decision that will beat it. So as an example, like earlier, if you're letting Necro jump out of the corner, Ken can now do standing fierce. Necro has to parry it as he's jumping to the other side, or landing on the other side, and then Ken can anti-air with other things after the parry, whether it be DP or Tatsu or whatever. Or that standing heavy punch could just hit Necro, push him all the way across the stage, you're back at neutral, and now you have that sort of edge as Ken. So now we're going to discuss talking about Yun's throw. Now, one of the things that you have to understand is how far away Yun is. Yun's not in range for crouching medium kick without taking a step forward. He is in range for a far heavy punch, or a shoulder, or he's in perfect range for a dive kick that can combo into something. You know, he can also throw and then whiff dive kick right in front to be in meaty position against a lot of characters based on how quick they get up, and if they even bother to quick rise. So the most important thing here is the Yun spacing. Now, specifically because he has the ability to move, he can walk into a range where he can manipulate the decisions that his opponent has. And this is extremely important, because he can make it so that his opponent cannot throw him, while if he taps forward and does Kara throw, he can throw his opponent. Because if you're walking forward or you tap forward and then you do your Kara throw, you technically get extra range. So, you use that to your advantage. So when you do this, you're walking up into range, and then you're still able to walk up and get your meaty, or a delayed attack to stop guard jump, or whatever it is that you want to do. There's a lot of decisions that can be made from Yun's point of view. So for this scenario, we're going to actually add some of those things. We're going to add movements, other decisions on offense, and possibly some delays. So the first time that we throw our opponent, we're going to walk up into this space, and then we're going to walk forward. We go to Kara throw them, and they tech it. The second time we throw our opponent, we walk up into this space, and we go for a close standing medium punch. That's blocked. And then the third time that we do it, we go for another throw. And it's teched again. So now we have to think about how is our opponent teching our throw, and also blocking our close standing medium punch. Take a few seconds. The answer is they're crouch teching. So they're doing a delayed crouch tech, which allows them to block meaties, and then throw a throw from a walk-up. Pretty simple stuff. Because your opponent is teching, they're not jumping, so it's not a guard jump. So this is something that you can abuse. So let's take a look at some of the ways that Yun can abuse the opponent looking to crouch tech after he does his throw and to walk up into that space. So when Yun throws Sean, he walks up into range and then walks up and down parries, and then he gets activate or dash punch or whatever, because his opponent is crouching. He can't get up kicks or anything. Very similarly to guard jump though, crouch tech gets blown up by other decisions, right? As you saw, you can walk up parry. But, just like guard jump, it loses to delayed attacks as well. So now, when Yun walks up into this space, he can walk up again and do a delayed close standing medium punch, or a crouching light kick, which is a little bit tighter, crouching medium kick, close standing medium kick, etc. And this all beats crouch tech. So now the opponent has to figure out another way to defend, because the Yun player has adapted and has started doing things that blow this up. Now it's important to note that as the Sean player, you now have very limited options, because the Yun has showed you that he's willing to delay his attacks, or he's willing to walk up parry. So if the Yun is now delaying his decisions, the Sean now needs to act immediately. Where if he were to immediately throw, and the Yun tries to do anything other than walk up immediately throw, like he tries to walk up down parry or something, it'll lose. So something like this. Oh, I got scooped. So now if Sean is making instant actions, and you are delaying your attacks, or you're delaying your throws, or whatever it is that you're doing, he can wake up and just smack you in the face, right? So that close standing roundhouse is a 6-frame attack. It's basically the same as a Dudley roundhouse. It's the same for his close standing fierce. So he can wake up with a high attack that requires a high parry, or he can do a crouching medium punch or a crouching short or something like that, and also blow up your decision, because it's very hard to cover the crouch tech timing and the immediate wake up timing for a parry, or with a parry I should say. It's important to understand one thing though, is that crouch tech is high and low parryable. So because crouch tech is high and low parryable, it's safest really to do high against a lot of characters. So you have to think about what character you're playing against and the normal that they're most likely to press when they get up, if they want to immediately attack you and get the most out of it. So in this example, Sean can get close standing roundhouse into super, or EX tornado, or whatever. But outside of that, he doesn't really have a whole lot of choices, other than like crouch short short super. And it's relatively risky, especially up close, to do crouching medium kick or something. So by process of elimination, highs are most likely coming. And this is something that you can do for every other character in the game. You can figure out what their best decisions are and parry accordingly. But specifically after both players have started to make decisions that counteract one another, this is where continued decision making through conditioning is very important. So the next portion that I want to talk about is conditioning your opponent, and how that relates directly to all of the situations that we have shown here. Now to break this situation down further, let's take a look at how exactly this space dictates decisions. Because if Yun walks up, it's perfect to do close standing roundhouse. But if Yun walks up to that spacing where throw is best, even if you get the proximity normal, it can whiff. And if he's a single step back further than that, far standing heavy kick comes out, which allows him to whiff punish it. So the further back that he is, the less options become viable. So if he's back here, all Sean can really do is try and press crouching light kick or crouching medium kick, or even far stand heavy punch, if he wants to take that risk. So if I throw him and I go back up to this range, he can try to do this, but frame-wise it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Because if he decides to do a far fierce, it starts up in 9 frames. It's a 10-frame normal. It's active on frame 10. So it just gets blown up by so much stuff. You can delay your crouching medium kick a lot from range, and it'll just beat it. Same thing with far target combo. So Sean in this particular situation has a lot more to worry about from Yun being at specific spacings. You know, where a character like Goki might be able to Tatsu to get out of specific situations that he might think are bad, or Demon Flip, or Wake Up DP. Different characters have different options, and it's up to the player as both the character specialist and the person who's playing against all the characters in the game to figure out what options the opponent has and how to best counteract them. So you'd have to figure out how to deal with Goki's Tatsu, or how to deal with, you know, Ken's Wake Up DP. If you like to go for, you know, meaties after the particular throw or whatever. And then it comes down to what your opponent's decision making is. Or can you influence said decision making with conditioning? Now this is going to be a sort of repeat of situation number 4, in which we're going to use Yun's forward throw in order to get information from our opponent. So we're going to throw our opponent into the corner and then walk back up into a range which the opponent can't throw us. So the first time we throw them, we're going to walk up and then we're just going to sit there and block. And then as you can see, Ken stands. This time when we throw him and we walk up and he taps down. And then he stands. So clearly from these two decisions, you can see that your opponent is trying to option parry, thinking that you're going to go for a meaty of some sort, right? But that's not the only type of information that you can gather when waiting for your opponent like this. Because if your opponent knows how this situation can play out, which I'll go over in the conditioning portion in a little bit, then he has a lot more options that he can go for. So, now this time I'm going to throw him, and I'm going to walk up and block. Well, he did a delayed crouching medium punch. So, this time I'm going to walk up, and I'm going to try to delay my decision and then throw him. And he techs my throw. So now, if I try to walk up, I can successfully throw him. Or, he can tech my throw. Or, he can do crouching medium punch. In which case he could buffer super. So the way this is working is he's doing a crouch medium punch with throw inside of it. So if I make Ken try to throw me instead, so when I hit Ken, he's going to walk forward and throw me, right? Normally you'd just crouch tech. But as I showcased before, you can do crouching medium punch plus throw. And what this means is that if you interrupt Ken from his walk forward, then he's going to get hit. And it's the same thing when you throw your opponent and then they, you know, try to do delay crouch button plus throw. Where specifically against Ken, his crouching medium punch just can be you can cancel it into super, right? So it's an amazing choice, especially when you're buffering tech into it. But you're not going to know that that's a possibility really until you put yourself in a position where Ken has to react to you possibly walking up to throw him. So this positioning and then waiting for a decision makes all the difference in the world. Because it lets you see if they are trying to throw when they get up. Or if you throw them and you just walk up and block, they could try to jump over you. Or it could be a guard jump, right? Because you are giving them space. If they anticipate you to go up and try to meaty them or throw them, then they're going to try and guard jump, if they know that that exists. Because it lets them try to get out of the corner, and they can parry on the way down. You know, Yun has a way to deal with this, obviously, where he can wait, and then he can do what KO does, where he'll do like throw, walk forward, crouch medium punch, And then you can do a Zempo as they land. Because if they parry on the way down and they try to do something afterward, they're going to get hit out of the startup of what they're doing, for the most part. Unless they're just possibly mashing throw. In which case, as you can see in the inputs on the screen, I do Zempo with punch and kick so that you can tech it. But literally waiting can let you punish a whole lot of things, and it gives you a lot of information based on what your opponent does. However, you give your opponent too much space, at times it can sort of bite you in the ass, because you're then making delayed decisions on how to keep them in the corner. So unless you have specific goals in mind, where you're trying to like garner Ken to jump forward, or you're trying to get him to press a button to you moving in and out of range, you know, to tag him with far medium kick, or, you know, allow dive kick spacing for things, and all that stuff, then making these sort of decisions doesn't make any sense. And if you're playing a character like Ken, you know, you can sort of sit back a little bit and let them sort of make a mistake, but at the same time, you giving too much space and having too much room to walk to throw them would completely bite you in the ass. So as an example, if I'm playing Ken and they're not quick rising and I walk too far back, I'm now out of range of really doing anything. So at this particular range, so let me save state, I have to micro step forward in order to do crouching medium punch. Crouching medium kick is an option. And then also, in general, you know, you can sweep from this distance, but it could be a risk. So the only other decision that you might have is stay on roundhouse. And a lot of these things are hard to hit your opponent with, you know, without letting them have a chance to jump or make a decision of their own, or just block. And if Yun blocks that crouching medium kick, you're out of range of, you know, all of your other decisions. So you've just pushed yourself out of the corner, and now you have to goaltend Yun. And this is fine if that's your intent, but, you know, if you're trying to do like DP or something else, it's a little bit different. Because if you're doing something like DP, and then Yun quick rises, look at how far away you are after the DP. You're already out of his throw range. So in order to mix him up, you would have to walk in and out of range, right? And then you're still possibly not in range for crouching medium punch or whatever. So you might be able to do something like this. But in general, you know, most Kens are forward dashing and then back dashing or something like that. Or they're making sure that they get their meaty timing. But, you know, you can just maintain your space and then force your opponent to make a decision. That's only with perfect spacing, which you don't get after a throw. So that is one of the most important things to understand as well, is what things become stronger based on the type of knockdown that you get and the positioning that you get after that knockdown. And it's exactly why I used Yun's throw in this situation, because he gets to walk very similar to Ken after his DP. He gets to remanipulate and change the spacing to change the options that are appealing to his opponent. Conditioning in Third Strike, whether it's an Okizeme or decisions in neutral or anything like that, is different than every other fighting game because of the existence of parry. Because of how parry functions, both players can have the same goal in a different way. So, if I'm Yun, I could be spacing to make Ken want to jump forward, right? And now my goal at this spacing might be to make Ken jump forward and press a button, based on the other aspects of the game that exist. Like, he may have meter, and I want to bait him to try to use it. So I'm standing at a space that forces him to try to jump in, and gives him that opportunity to do the jumping heavy kick into whatever, or gives him the ability to try to cross me up with jump medium kick. But the existence of parry allows me to try to counteract that, or bait it specifically so that I can parry and punish. So the basic concept of conditioning in Third Strike is not quite as linear as it is in other games. Whereas if I was standing at this spacing in ST and I was throwing fireballs or something, the only way that my opponent could really get to me is to try to jump in. And then I could anti-air them. However, in Third Strike, you can not only parry the fireball, but you can empty jump at your opponent and parry their attempt at an anti-air. So when you are conditioning your opponent, be it in neutral or on Oki or whatever, there's a lot of different things that you can use to your advantage to force them to have to make very specific decisions. And in some cases, you can literally just tell your opponent, we're going to play rock, paper, scissors forever. And you're just going to have to deal with it. And in a lot of cases, that just comes down to, are they literally just going to block? Or are they going to option select? And these are the type of things that gathering information on your opponent helps you learn how to condition them to make specific decisions. But one thing to understand is that basically everything in Third Strike is based around throw. The mechanic where if you parry, it makes it so that you can no longer tech, unless you SGGK. That's a thing. So you have a small window where you can't tech a throw, because you decided that you thought your opponent was going to attack high, and you wanted to take that risk to high parry, and then you're like, okay, parry throw. Well, your throw is not going to work. You're going to get scooped by your opponent. And this is something that adds extra layers of mind games to things. And conditioning your opponent is the first step of playing mind games. But because basically everyone in the game's fastest move is throw, and throw interacts with parry in this way that I said before, it's one of the building blocks of offense. And when you're conditioning your opponent, they always have to respect that throw is an option. Even if you're way back here, you know, they have to respect that you can walk up and throw them all the way from across the screen. I mean, they do in other games too, but at the same time, if they want to contest you, certain characters like Ken, you know, he could press far roundhouse, or he could try to do crouching medium kick buffer super or something. But if you walk up and down parry, then, you know, you have just made your opponent do something and now you can punish them. Because every area of this game is so intertwined with one another, it's extremely important that you're able to find ways to condition your opponent to make specific decisions, whether that's through movement, spacing, or decisions on your opponent's wake-up. All of these things matter. All of the cadence to your button presses. You know, you're always pressing and pressing and pressing. And then that one time that they go for the parry, well, you delayed your attack and then they parried and they get hit. Tough luck, right? Or you always meaty them. And then the one time that they try to parry your meaty, they get thrown. So the fundamental parts of building your offense comes down to the ability to read how your opponent likes to deal with situations and forcing them into a situation to give you that information. And usually the easiest way to do that is by using some sort of conditioning or some sort of structure to your decision making. And the way that, you know, a lot of people might describe it is decision making trees based off of interactions that you've had with your opponent. So I already went over the idea of using the walk up into space with Yun's throw. So I'm going to use Yun's throw as the first way to showcase conditioning. So by moving into this space, I am conditioning my opponent to not throw me, right? Because they have to react to a last second move forward. And if they react to that last second move forward with a throw, and I do a meaty, they lose. So I can continually walk forward to this space and throw them until they show me that they're going to jump out or they're going to tech my throw. Either with a crouch tech or with a normal tech, just by walking backwards. So let's take a look at what happens if we try to continually just throw Ken. Oh, he hits us with crouch medium punch. Well, that's not ideal, especially if he has super, right? But he has no reason to press that crouching medium punch unless we've thrown him a bunch. Because pressing crouching medium punch against an opponent that is always meatying you makes zero sense whatsoever. So if we want to open up the ability to walk up and then beat him trying to beat our throw, whether it's with crouch tech or crouching medium punch or, you know, whatever, then that becomes the thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to force the opponent to commit to an option that beats throw. And as soon as they do it, that's when you have to decide how you want to approach from there. But if your opponent is simply teching your throw and not crouch teching, then meaties work. But if they're delay crouch teching, then meaties don't work, like I showed in some of the earlier situations. Alternatively, you can anticipate their change in approach and aim to counter it as it's happening. But that is where this starts to turn into mind games. So I'm using this throw, and I'm using this particular spacing to force Ken to make very particular decisions. He has to hard commit to a very particular set of choices based on my next decision. So if I move up to this space and I don't do anything and he does DP, he's screwed, right? So if he does heavy punch DP after I throw him, and I walk up and I do crouching medium punch, it either hits me fully if I get too close, or it tags me once and then I get a hard punish for like 60% of my meter. But the thing there is that that heavy punch DP beats that close standing medium punch that I just tried to meaty with. It beats the crouching medium punch if I'm too close. Oops. And if I try to do crouching light kick or crouching medium kick or something, it's just gonna beat it straight. So while Ken has his goal to try to counteract your meaties or your throws with DP, you still have that ability to use your movement to force a bad decision from the Ken player. If you make the decision that you want to go for that meaty, or you're trying to, you know, activate your Ganagin or something, and you want to do it relatively safely, close standing heavy punch will beat that or trade, I should say, with that heavy punch DP. So the risk of, you know, this not working is a lot lower, because they either have to double high parry this, or they have to immediately parry and throw, expecting it, because they can't parry and then react with something. The one thing to understand, though, is that when you are conditioning off of throw, it's not just specifically off of throw alone. Because you can condition with tick throw, right? Well, what happens if, you know, you go for a tick throw and Ken does heavy punch DP? You lose. If you just go for throw, you lose. But if you manipulate his decision, and then you walk out of range, you get that hard punish like I showed. But this does not become available until you make your opponent want to counter your decision with something. So Yun has to be very cognizant of Ken's possible decisions. He can specifically look to abuse throw or condition with it to make Ken do specific things that will either allow meaties to work or will allow movement to work, or just waiting. But if you're not using throw like off of a close standing medium punch tick, or a crouching light kick tick or something, then the opponent has no reason to do anything in particular after this tick. Normally they might look for you to be negative so that they can contest with a button. But if their goal is to tech your throw when you're walking up, it's most likely going to be a crouch tech. So instead, you could delay your attack. Or you could use a frame trap in order to catch them trying to tech your throw. So this first example of using throw and positioning to negate Ken's ability to just raw throw you without walking forward sets up the idea that you can completely manipulate what options that your opponent has available to them and what they should or should not do based on the decisions that you are making. If you are continually trying to throw them, they are more likely going to use things that will stop you from doing so, which then allows you to counter those counters. And that is your goal when you're conditioning with any particular thing. If you're conditioning with just throw, or mainly with throw, then your goal is to get him pressing that crouching medium punch for you to parry, pressing that crouching medium punch for you to meaty. Or in a situation where they're going to start guard jumping. Because specifically as Yun, your goal is to get as much meter as possible. So them blocking attacks is the best way and fastest way for you to get meter. If they're blocking attacks, though, then they're going to be open to throw, unless they're guard jumping. So the more defensive a player is, the better throw becomes. Because either they're going to show you that they're going to guard jump, or they're going to show you that they're going to tech. Otherwise, it's going to become one of those situations where they may hit you with something and it's not going to amount to much, unless it's like a Ken crouch medium punch confirmed super or something, right? This is why a lot of the time when Yun is doing Oki and players are playing very defensively, the Yun player doesn't mind if you're guard jumping because it's building him more meter. And he doesn't mind if you're taking these risks of doing, crouching medium punch to stop a throw or whatever. Because more often than not, he's going to be trying to do something that will stop that from happening. But if he doesn't initially set up his opponent to make specific decisions to counter how he is most likely attempting to pressure you, then he doesn't have a way to actually open you up, because you can literally just block everything. And although he does get Genejin very, very fast, eventually just blocking things and option parrying, you're going to get that opening. And because Yun has low health, a lot of characters only really need 2 major openings to take a round. So it's important to know the risk and reward behind the type of conditioning that you're going for. If you are not anticipating your opponent's change in decision making between being super defensive or being forced to make a sort of pseudo rock paper scissors guess on your next decision, then you can't possibly take advantage of it. A lot of things in this game are, very similar to chess, where you have to be thinking 1 or 2 moves ahead. And that's the goal of conditioning, to allow that 1 or 2 moves ahead to really shine through, as long as you are making the correct reads on how your opponent is looking to deal with things. But when you are conditioning your opponent, and you are making decisions, or you're doing option selects, or whatever it is that you're doing on offense or defense, there are always going to be something that will beat what you're doing. And if your opponent makes that decision, you literally just have to stop and be like, okay, good shit. You beat what I was doing. And continue on from there. Because that is information gathering. Eventually, when they beat you, there's a reason why they did what they did. In most cases. So it's about figuring out how to get that exact reaction to happen again and take advantage of it. And even if it's not that particular reaction, the goal is to garner a reaction that can be taken advantage of, period. Everyone that's played this game knows that when you get thrown in the corner by Chun-Li, it's not a fun experience, especially when she has super. Because she can manipulate space to the point where basically no other character in the game can throw her, while she can still throw you. So as the person on defense, you have a lot more that you have to worry about, because you can't just simply sit there and block. So when Chun-Li knocks you down, and then waits for you to start to get up, she's going to walk backwards. And this is what I call the MOV tech. Now, it's something that almost all Chuns use, but depending on when you actually start to walk backwards, you have more wiggle room as to using a shimmy of sorts, where you're walking in and out of range. Now, it's important to note that at this exact range, Chun-Li can basically still throw you. So even though your shadows are just barely touching, she can still throw you, but there's no way that you can throw her. So at this range, not only does Chun-Li have Kara throw, but she has a low way to confirm super, the first high way to confirm super, second, microstep forward stand roundhouse for third. She can go over low attack attempts. She can use her crouching light kick still to set up pressure, where you have to worry about far stand heavy punch, you have to worry about standing medium punch, you have to worry about frame traps off of crouching light medium kick. And there's just so many things that you have to be wary of when you're in this position. Except because since Chun-Li is out of range of most of your things, all you can really do is swing for the fences if you're gonna do something. Otherwise, you just have to commit to blocking, or you have to take the risk to try to tech the throw, or jump out of the corner. So from this range, Chun-Li literally has access to her entire toolkit to keep you cornered and keep you pressured. So she has ways that are frame traps from both lows into a high, or a low into a low. She can keep you just standing there if you are crouch blocking on some characters with proximity guards standing medium punch. She can do a lot of things, right? And because you can't defend all of these things, you have to concede at least one thing working. It makes defending this extremely frustrating. So this is a rock, paper, scissors situation. It's a hard guess from the defender, because of all the options that Chun-Li has, and how this particular situation works. Because if you watch this, I can literally just back up, and you don't know what's coming next. There's no telegraph, there's nothing. It's literally just, okay, I'm at a range where your options are limited, and I still have all of my options. Guess. So Chun-Li's goal here is to literally condition you with throws to make you fear that throw. But at the same time, you also have to fear all of her other options when she has super. There's a little bit less fear required when she doesn't have super, which is why she may opt for other sort of mix-up opportunities. But in this exact scenario, you have to fear that low confirm and that high confirm. Now, because guard jump is the most common way to deal with this, you know, I try to walk backward and I try to Kara throw, it's not going to work. So when I throw him, if I walk back, I can time my back fierce to hit the guard jump. Right? It works the same way as in one of the earlier situations that I'm talking about when doing situational awareness analysis, where you can still hit your opponent during their guard jump. And that's possible with both crouching medium kick and back fierce. And it's also technically possible with close down roundhouse. So when I throw him, if I walk back and then I walk forward, that stand roundhouse hits that guard jump. Because if I just, walk back and do crouching medium kick, and it's timed correctly, he's going to block it. Or back fierce is a meaty, right? But as soon as I, add that extra delay, he's going to get hit during his guard jump. So not only does your opponent need to worry about you doing things to hit their guard jump, they have to worry about things in general where your goal is to keep them cornered. Because you can reset them with stand jab. You can, keep them in the corner with stand medium punch and either hit their guard jump attempt or reset them. And it's the same thing with, forward roundhouse. You can hit them on the way up. Just like this. So Chun-Li has a lot of tools to keep the opponent sitting there. So if she has so many tools to deal with guard jump, the options become more limited for the opponent. So the way that this works is that your opponent has to know all of your options in order for conditioning them with throw to fear the other possible choices to work. Because if they don't respect that you can hit their guard jump with an attack, then there's no reason for them to stay grounded. So now this is important, because if you throw your opponent and then you walk back and you try to throw them, there's a chance that you will throw them. And if they're crouch teching, there's a chance that they're going to actually tech your throw, depending on how long they delay that crouch tech. So the input that I have here had Dudley doing it a couple frames too early, and I was able to throw the startup of his crouching light punch. So when you are conditioning your opponent with your throw, the goal is to make them fear the other decisions so that they don't just constantly get throw looped. And to make that decision to try to crouch tech means that they're opening themselves up to other choices from you as well. So, if you're throwing them and then you walk up down parry or, walk up SGGK, then, you're going to blow them up for this. And this is something very common from this situation. And it's the same thing where if you try to, back heavy punch them at the correct timing, you'll hit them out of the crouching jab portion. And if you do it at the wrong time, they're going to block it. It's the same thing with crouching medium kick. It's a few frames later than you might have to hit them with a attack in order to stop a guard jump. So you have to make reads on your opponent's decisions defensively as well. So if she's conditioning you with throw over and over and over again, you can press attacks like this. Because if Chun-Li waits and then tries to walk back and Kara throw you, she'll either do a delayed Kara throw and allow her to block like I just showed here, or she'll walk back early and then get that Kara throw on startup. So as long as the Dudley is timing this properly to have it so that the startup of their crouching, or the ending portion of the crouching medium punch, is happening when you are coming out of the state in the game where you cannot be thrown, then there's nothing that Chun-Li can do about it. And it's the same thing with stand roundhouse or whatever. It's most attacks that are like 6 frames or less that will allow for something like this. So every character should have access to something, but it's all about if that attack actually has the range to stop the walk back Kara throw from Chun-Li. And that may not be the case for every character. So if you're, walking back to try to Kara throw, and they're interrupting you with their crouching medium punch or whatever the character's attack is that they choose to do, and they're swinging for the fences, that means that your meaties are now open, right? So, doing that walk back a step, walk forward, stand roundhouse. Or that walk back, back fierce. Or walk back crouching medium kick. Especially if you have super, contesting Chun-Li like this is very dangerous. So, being able to see how your opponent likes to defend by using, you know, information gathering techniques like we talked about earlier to make this situation even more deadly against them is very important. But just like other scenarios, if Chun-Li isn't throwing you enough to make you want to commit to these other defensive decisions, her attacks are no longer as strong. Because if the opponent just simply blocks or gets hit, she gets pushed back to a point where her attacks don't work as well. Because as soon as she's under the timer, the only thing that she can really do is stand fierce, or contest with neutral jump roundhouse, or, you know, jump forward into down medium kick or whatever. And depending on the matchup, all of that stuff is still good, but the conditioning and spacing here requires her to walk forward to be able to use crouching medium kick, or, you know, walk forward to be able to back fierce, and it gives you the opportunity to try to fight your way out. And this is why when a lot of Chun-Li's throw you, a lot of players will, you know, just put themselves in a position where they're comfortable taking that throw if their life and meter and game state and stuff allows, and then continue from this portion when Chun-Li is pushed back far enough to allow other decisions. Because waking up and guess parrying is just as bad, because if you parry, you eat the throw, whether it's a down parry or a high parry, unless you're using an SGGK of some sort. And if they commit to an attack that is the opposite direction and they have super, you lose half your life. So it's a very high variance decision to go for these parries, because all it takes is her to, you know, walk back and then use back fierce once when you think the crouching medium kick is coming, or vice versa. This exact same fear of throws is very important, because if you're trying to, like, tick throw your opponent and they're showing you that they're going to tech your throw, it means that A, they're pressing crouch tech, or they're just standing up to tech your throw, right? So when using throw as a tool to figure out how your opponent is trying to defend, when you get this information, it makes other things readily available to you. So throwing, especially off of ticks, is very important. And the reason for this is because it opens up all of your other choices. So if you're ticking your opponent up close, like point blank, and then you micro step back and you go for a Kara throw, he's going to tech you, right? If he goes for a crouch tech. Or if he jumps after that, then you have other things that it tells you. So if you see that your opponent is teching your throw, and it opens up frame traps, it's the same thing as if they show you that they're going to jump. So it's two options that give you the same results, or the same choices from Chun-Li's point of view. It's the same reasoning as to why you would do both things. It's just a slight variation in timing. But until you actually show your opponent that you're going to go for that tick throw, the frame traps don't actually open up. And it's the same thing if they don't show you that they want to jump after that tick. Because it's the same exact thing off of crouching medium kick. So without tick throws, this doesn't really matter all that much. But when you're doing this, this also opens up throws. It's the same thing with just crouching medium kick. At specific ranges, you'll notice if you look at the shadows where Chun-Li barely needs to take a step forward to Kara throw your opponent. And this is why, you know, throw in general is so dangerous with Chun, because there are so many things that you can do it off of that other characters can't. So, like, if I'm pressing close standing medium punch, it puts me really far away. And walking up an entire step means that they have to look out for a crouching medium kick, you know, a back fierce, a stand fierce, or a block. So in this exact situation, if you walk up and you Kara throw them and they're not just trying to jump, or they're not just trying to, you know, press buttons or whatever to stop your incoming, then you don't have to worry about that. And if they are, you can do auto walk and then forward parry when you're walking forward. Or walk forward down parry, which opens up all sorts of other things. And if you notice that auto walk into a particular parry puts me in exact position for Kara throw. So as the person on defense, you're looking for moves that push her back very far. So back fierce, far fierce, you know, forward roundhouse doesn't really push her back all that far, and neither does stand roundhouse. Stand roundhouse, actually, at point blank range, puts her right into Kara throw range. And if it's the maximum distance, all she has to do is tap forward to get that Kara throw. So while all of her attacks and hit confirms make her extra deadly, they don't work without throw. Without throw setting everything up. In Third Strike, about 90% of all attacks in the game are blockable low. And all the lows in the game that are true lows are only low parryable. But only about 10 to 15% of the moves in the game are low parryable only. So this means that using lows to open up throws, or using lows into other low attacks, which is something that a character like Chun-Li is very good with their crouching light kick, crouching medium kick frame trap, and crouching light kick tick throw like I showed in the previous example, opens up a lot of different opportunities. And what you're looking to make your opponent do is different, a little bit, than conditioning with throw. Because unlike throwing your opponent, you're trying to get them to make decisions to try to parry in a specific direction. Because if they're opting to parry low, then all of your highs become something that work now. Like I said previously, crouching light kick sets up a lot of different things. And specifically, it lets you start to condition with that tick throw if you want. And it's important that you understand that the only way to get your opponent to try to jump after a low attack is by incorporating throw after it. So it's sort of a mixture of understanding how to use the two things in conjunction. Because, like I said before, if the opponent is not trying to jump or, you know, high parry or whatever after this crouching light kick, then the frame trap into crouching medium kick isn't going to matter. This is also why at a very high level, when Shun does crouching jab or crouching light kick, the opponent usually doesn't make a decision that has a lot of variance behind it. And the reason for that is because she has so many options that can be tacked on afterward. You know, you can do crouching jab into back fierce, you can do crouching jab into crouching medium kick, crouching jab into walk up Kara throw, you know, walk back and forth to whiff punish a decision from the opponent, because if they think that you're going to, you know, throw them and they opt to stay on the ground to crouch tack or something, you know, you have the ability to walk back and then delay your crouching medium kick to hit that, or walk forward and down parry and go right into SGGK. However, doing, you know, constant low attacks is the only way really to get your opponent to want to low parry. And going for crouching medium kick consistently as a way of trying to get super, you know, a lot of Chuns you'll see walk back and forth and use their crouching medium kick in neutral. And a lot of times you'll see players starting to option parry when they think that specific things are coming, so that they can try and punish with a delayed punish. Like Yun might walk up and do down parry at a range where Chun-Li is trying to contest his crouching medium kick with her own, so that he can delay his decision and then punish the crouching medium kick after the cancel window is over. So in this exact situation, I'm pushed out of range, right? I do close crouch light kick, crouch medium kick, and this allows me to walk forward and Kara throw. Now, without making my opponent respect that throw, and without making them want to down parry by using these low attacks when you're at these sort of spacings, the high hit confirms don't actually open up. So if you have meter, having the ability to influence what your opponent wants to do as far as defend is incredibly potent. Whether you're doing that by, constantly using highs or lows, Chun-Li is more apt to use lows because her highs push her a lot further back and require her to reposition in order to continue pressure. Whereas her lights have a lot less pushback. Or I should say her lows have a lot less pushback. In general, her lights have the least amount of pushback, just like every other character. But for her lows in particular, even if you're up close, Crouch Roundhouse doesn't even put you outside of Kara throw range. So if you do that on their wake up, and they just block afterward, you can get a free Kara throw. Or you can option parry in a direction, like forward, and then SGGK. Because that forward motion for the parry, that you're walking forward a step essentially, will allow you to get into the range for that Kara throw. And if you get the parry, they'll then be close enough for the stand roundhouse for that SGGK. But because of this, you want to actually have enough different delays in your attacks, specifically if you're conditioning with lows, especially if a character has a frame trap. Because even though you can just Gatling essentially these attacks one after another, it's not always the best idea to do this, because you want to give your opponent the ability to try to jump, where this crouching medium kick may hit their jump, or give them a timing difference that will give them an opportunity to try to parry in a direction. Because you can use just crouching light kick and then do back fierce, or you can delay and do stand medium punch as a confirm. And it's the same where you can delay your attack and do, another crouching medium kick. So, in general, all of your choices, no matter what they are meant to garner all of these different types of decisions from your opponent, and to make them think about how they want to defend at a particular position, whether it's on Okizeme or up close or not. And it's why, people like playing against Chun-Li are trying to get out of their corner, they're trying to jump out, they're trying to do whatever, and far fierce and like at distances where far fierce might be something that your opponent is respecting, walk forward, crouch medium kick works. It goes very deep as far as the decisions that can be made and why. Now specifically when you're conditioning with low attacks, if you're doing it on Okizeme, doing it up close is fine. But in a lot of cases you're going to want to take that, ability to really guess away from your opponent so that throw isn't an option. And this is what I went over before. But when you walk back like this, if you want to do crouching light kick, crouching medium kick, sure, it works. But you no longer have that walk up one step into Kara throw. You now have to walk up 2 steps in order to get into range for Kara throw. And it's the same thing like doing crouching medium kick into crouching medium kick after a light tick. You have to walk up 2 steps in order to Kara throw. So let's take a look at this spacing in particular, where we're doing crouching light kick into crouching medium kick. So I'm at the range right now where crouching light kick would have happened, right? So now if I do crouching medium kick and I try to intercept my opponent trying to jump, with stand fierce it doesn't work, right? So this means that this particular thing, I have to walk back and then anti-air him back into the corner. The other option that we have is an immediate stand jab. If you notice, if I delay it, the opponent can jump. But if I make it as a Gatling sort of decision, one after another, if he tries to hold up forward to try to get out of the corner, then he's going to end up getting knocked back into the corner. And this is something you'll actually see used quite a bit, and it's why at this particular type of range, Chun-Li's will press that jab, because it's not going to get parried, and if they jump, then it actually tags them. Right? So if he stays grounded, then stand jab doesn't work. If he tries to neutral jump, stand jab also doesn't work. So it's one of those things that you have to really look at what the opponent wants to do. Do they want to get out of that corner, or are they comfortable being in that corner, neutral jumping, making decisions? It's why when you see Yun versus Chun, there's just as many neutral jumps as there are jump forward attempts. Because every time that Chun does that crouching medium kick, you know, she can do something to try and stop the opponent from jumping. So like I showed earlier, if we delay our standing medium punch after this, it doesn't work. But if you do it the single, or like basically immediately the frame after, it will continue to keep your opponent in the corner, just like that stand jab would. So this is why even when you're conditioning with lows, it's not always beneficial to always go for, you know, crouching light kick, crouching medium kick, because even though the opponent tried to jump here and it was a frame trap, the whole point of using, you know, multiple lows is to position yourself so that at this range where that crouching medium kick would let them jump, you are able to contest with other decisions. So like Chun-Li can tap forward so that they micro step forward to be able to get that stand medium punch. And if they crouch, some characters this will force a proximity guard. In which case, then, if that's forced, they have to choose between what they're going to do. You know, this is a situation that Nuki did on me when I was in Japan, and it frustrated me a lot. Because, essentially, if you try to jump after that situation, and they immediately go for the crouching medium kick afterward, it's going to hit your jump startup. So, there's a lot of layers here that all start from that low attack. And the further you are away with the crouching medium kick, the more likely it is that your opponent is going to sort of take that opportunity to make that jump. Because jumping forward here lets you try to jump forward and parry as an anti-air against Chun-Li, or it lets you try to jump in and attack her. Or if you're twins or something, or you're another character that is more than capable of fending Chun-Li off in the corner, then making sure that you're, you know, at max distance for crouching medium kick, you're not going to be able to fierce them, but if they jump, you can walk forward and fierce them on the way down. And very few characters, if you do this at max range, are going to be able to punish you. So it has to be like a perfect decision as far as the jump parry. Or, at the same time, you know, you do this and then they jump, and then they land into your crouching medium kick when they tried to, you know, parry that walk forward stand fierce. So it's just layers upon layers upon layers of things that end up turning into mind games. So even though crouching light kick into crouching medium kick is a frame trap, if he tries to jump, you know, crouching light kick into crouching light kick is the same thing, and it also puts you at the same sort of spacing. So when you're doing this, it puts you in better position to keep your opponent cornered without making that risk of giving them a button that allows them to freely act afterward. But because you know that they can jump after that crouching medium kick for free, it's about conditioning your opponent to want to make that decision, so that you can go back into making that walk back fierce, or walk up fierce, or, you know, trying to make a decision as they're jumping to crouching medium kick them as they're landing. Or any other plethora of decisions that you can make. So that, like, you do this, right? So that you can continue to pressure your opponent. And if you're good enough with Chun-Li, you can get a whole lot of funky resets and stuff off of this sort of situation. But if you don't make them know that they can jump in specific situations, then this jump forward stomp doesn't ever end up working. And this all comes from conditioning your opponent by starting with your best normals, your crouching light kick, your crouching light punch. And even though this is high parryable technically, it functions in the same exact manner. But crouching light kick goes further than crouching light punch does, in a lot of cases. So it's very useful to be able to walk in and out of range where crouching light kick can work. Because crouching light kick's max range is just outside of Kara throw range. So if we have Dudley just stand where he is, right? If we're at this position, you can walk forward crouching light kick again, and then you can walk forward Kara throw. And this is a very common, you know, thing for people to do. And then they have walk up forward back fierce, or walk up crouching medium kick afterward. There's so many options that Chun has that all start from the buttons that you're using and the spacing that they put you at. But at the same time, using things like crouching medium kick at ranges that, push you a little bit further back allows you to know what your opponent is capable of doing. Because at this point, Dudley is too far away for him to actually try to press anything. The only thing that would really hit is his sweep, which is very, very risky, because crouching medium kick would just beat it on startup, or his fierce punch, in which case that's also risky. But at the same time, when he knows that his best option is to try and jump forward or jump out of the corner or whatever, you can manipulate his decisions that way. And once the opponent realizes that that is what you're looking to get out of them, they're going to adapt and then stay grounded, in which case you now continue to be able to pressure them with the same sort of thing until they eventually make that decision that they want to take that risk to jump. So Yang is a character that conditions through mainly lows and throws. And the reason for this is because crouching medium kick is his furthest reaching cancelable move, and this cancels right into medium punch Rekka. And closer, it actually combos into light punch Rekka. So all of his pressure starts usually from a crouching light kick or a crouching medium kick into Rekka. Now this is not technically a combo, but it is a frame trap. It must be red parried. So other than this, the only ways for him to actually land a Rekka is raw, standing medium punch, or standing fierce punch. Now something that most people don't know is that if you do standing fierce punch into EX Rekka, it actually does less damage by 3 damage than using standing medium punch because of scaling. But regardless of that little fact, Yang mostly works off of moves that keep his opponent where they want him to be, as well as the ability to get into Rekka. And this mostly comes off of crouch jab, crouch light kick, and crouching medium kick. So this is why oftentimes you'll see Rekka into a crouching medium kick, or Rekka into crouching light kick Rekka or something immediately after this. Because Rekka on block is only -1. Or light Rekka, I should say. Strong Rekka on block is -5. So it's much riskier to go for this attack than it would be for light Rekka. And EX Rekka is -4. So if a Ken is very astute, he can punish EX Rekka on block with super. And he can also punish medium slash on block with super. However, not a lot of characters in the game have very strong decisions that are less than 5 frames. At least that would contest with, Yang option parrying after a Rekka attempt. So you have to be very wary about where Yang is, because off of this, he actually can't get another Rekka without walking forward if he wants to cancel off of something. So this means that his only way to get a high afterward is to commit to another Rekka, or to commit to something that allows him to walk forward and go for something like target combo or something. So this same thing exists off of the fact that the second Rekka, if done as a light, is only -4. So even if you start with medium Rekka and you do light Rekka afterward, it's -4. So while Yang's turn is technically over, very few characters in the game can actually punish this, at least with anything meaningful, because you're out of throw range. So if you land a normal light Rekka and you're -1, your opponent has to worry about throw. And because they have to worry about throw, they have to either commit to a crouch tech or jump. And both of these options can get hit by a slightly delayed second Rekka. So there's a lot of mind games that go into the decisions behind what you're doing after your Rekkas. But, you know, it all starts from that crouching medium kick into Rekka, because your goal is to get into spacings where you can continue to pressure your opponent. Now, because very few characters can punish after the second Rekka, Yang gets the exact same thing that he would off of a medium Rekka starter, where he gets to option parry, and the fear of these decisions is what allows him to do like walk-up throw and stuff. It's very similar to Chun-Li in her normal tick throw stuff, is because against Chun-Li you have to be scared of the frame trap. And against Yang you actually technically have to be scared of that frame trap as well. So because his main pressure tool puts him in position to better use lows than highs, Yang mostly conditions with lows. It doesn't mean that he can't use highs, especially as a way on Oki, you know, to start things. But for the most part, especially even in neutral, Yang is conditioning you with, you know, crouching medium kick and far medium kick. And crouching medium kick is one of the things that, you know, you really need to worry about, because, you know, he can buffer Rekka behind it. But in general, both twins, when you're just outside of crouching medium kick range, get perfect spaced dive kicks. So if Alex is not blocking, then if I am at this distance and I go for a dive kick, all of my stuff as Yang works. So crouching medium kick, especially in neutral, can be used as a measuring stick of sorts to allow you to know when far medium kick, whiff dive, and neutral dive kick will hit. Or, if you really want to, you know, you can super jump medium kick dive kick or something, which will allow you to, you know, empty dive right in front of their face and go for, you know, a throw of some sort. But for the most part, if the opponent does not fear your lows, as an example, crouching jab is +4. So crouching jab into crouching light kick, or a medium kick I should say, is a frame trap, just like Chun-Li's. So this is also +2. So you can technically frame trap with this as well. And without your opponent thinking that a low is going to come, tick throw is not open. And it's the same thing if they don't try to, like, condition themselves to look for a secondary attack to parry, then, you know, a sort of delayed high light Rekka isn't going to really hit them. Or a delayed EX Rekka or something. But again, just like Chun-Li, or Ken, or any other character that has a good low forward, you really want to be conditioning your opponent to be looking for that down parry. So the only other choice that they have is to let you do your crouching medium kick, and then red parry your Rekka. However, Yang has a way to change the timing at which he does his Rekka cancel. So you can either do a early or a late. And it's about a 2-frame difference, which is the exact difference that is required to stop a red parry, because a red parry requires 2 frames. So if they think that the first immediate is going to happen, then great, they get their red parry. But if they think that the first one is going to happen and then the delayed Rekka cancel happens, they end up getting hit, and then you get a knockdown and you get to repeat the situation. Because as we see here, if I instant cancel, it's 2 hits, right? If I late cancel the crouching medium kick, that's 2 hits. If I instant cancel, it's also 2 hits. But I can't late cancel the medium punch. So if you're going to be starting Rekka pressure against your opponent, it's usually going to be more consistent off of the low, because you don't have to fear that red parry as much, as long as you have this variation as part of your toolkit. Now, if you are up close and you can get a close standing medium punch, even though it's not instantly cancelable, this is a frame trap. Because light punch Rekka is 8 frame startup, so it's active on frame 9. And close standing medium punch is +6. So the opponent here has to wait at least 9 frames before their throw becomes active. So they can't throw you out of this. And that's very important. Because without this, there's no way for you to even use highs as a conditioning tool, really, other than to get your Rekka pressure started. Now it's important to notice the difference in Rekka advantage, because specifically against like Alex here, when he stands to block this second part of the Rekka, his hurt box moves backwards, so the light punch Rekka actually connects later. So Yang is +2 as opposed to -1. Whereas if I'm up close and I do this exact same thing, I'm going to be -1. So because this is so variable, in situations where I'm 0, crouching medium kick will actually connect against my opponent. So that means that I can just immediately go right into other Rekka pressure to go right back into my rock, paper, scissors scenarios, especially against characters that can't hard punish the second Rekka. But without the opponent fearing that crouching medium kick, they're not going to be sitting there long enough for you to just, walk up and Rekka them. This is especially important against most crouch characters, because as you can see here, the variance is still there. So if you're under the timer and you go for that light punch Rekka, you're going to have a 0 frame advantage, which opens up that low. Or it opens up another Rekka for you to do if you want to commit to that, because you're far enough away that it could be a risk for your opponent to be pressing something. Because you could also do EX Rekka instead and beat out a lot of things. Especially because of priority and stuff, right? So it's a risk that they have to think about. But until your opponent fears that crouching medium kick at these distances, or fears the decisions that you can make at this range, like dive kicks and all that stuff, then opening up those decisions through Rekka isn't going to be an option. And getting high decisions on Oki isn't really going to be that much of an option because Yang doesn't have all of these strong overheads. He can use universal overhead and, combo into stand light kick, or he can use forward medium kick, but these are both relatively high as far as the startup goes, right? 15 frames for universal overhead, and 19 frames for forward medium kick, which is a lot. You're going to have a lot of people be able to react to these things. So, because all of his attacks are low blockable, you have to condition your opponent to either try to high parry or try to low parry. And since it's more consistent to get into your Rekka pressure from low parries, unless you want to hard commit to decisions of just using Rekka itself, then you don't really have a choice. You have to condition through that low, or you have to condition with those throws to set up the Oki situations where you can get in and use your highs. The other thing that you need to understand is that, especially because of how forward throw works, you get to act by walking up. And crouching medium kick is going to be much easier to actually condition your opponent with or use as a tool to get into Rekka than going for a high. Because off of forward throw, you essentially have to immediately walk up and go for a Rekka itself. Because if you try to, go for a close standing medium punch, it has to be a timing at which they're not going to be looking to throw you. Because unless you just hard commit to a walk up against some characters, you will be able to get it, but depending on how quick the character gets up, you might not. So because of the get up time variation, the close standing medium punch isn't really an option. And if you do this improperly, you're going to get thrown even against the characters that it can work against. Because Alex is a character it can work against. However, most players don't know that you can crouch cancel anything in the game that allows you or puts you in the air. So Yang is now airborne after his forward throw. So if you hold down when you land, I can now meaty with close standing medium punch if I walk up. However, I can't if I don't do this. Outside of just the ability to mash for stun off of neutral throw, Neutral throw gives you more ability to mix your opponent up because of how close you actually are to them. You can use the space to walk backwards, or jump, or make all sorts of other decisions that you might not be able to be off of this. Because if your opponent looks to instantly throw when they're getting up, which is obviously not a good idea against Yang because he can vary his timing for things, but even if I, try to walk up and do standing medium punch off of his normal, walk up down jab or walk up stand jab or whatever it is that he's doing, it's not a viable choice if you want to get that close standing medium punch. However, it is if you go for the low. But at the same time, it's a way to condition them to look for that low attack or that attack in general to keep them in place to allow you to walk up for that throw or walk up for that crouching medium kick. And because you can't use forward throw into a high without just doing raw Rekka, it makes it a little bit more risky to go for. And that's another reason why Yangs usually condition with lows, is because if they want to use that high attack, the opponent either has to fear the throw and try to jump so that that Rekka can hit the guard jump or whatever it is that they're trying to do, or the crouching medium kick is going to be the tool that hits them during this. Deadly is a very interesting character, and the reason for this is because most of his normals actually leave him positive. So he sort of gets like this frame trap into frame trap into frame trap against a lot of characters. So like forward medium kick, as an example, combos into uppercut. And it's also hit confirmable into super. And stand roundhouse is your main way of getting EX machine gun blow, or I should say your only way, really. However, Dudley does have sweep, but sweep is 15 frames. And so is universal overhead. So the only way that you can really sweep your opponent is if they fear your highs. Now, without meter, the only real way that you have to deal damage to your opponent from highs or overheads is dart shot into standing medium kick. But if you have meter, you get this into super, which is super dangerous. Because especially against characters like Goki, it can do upwards to 45% of their HP. And you get a hard knockdown. But from relatively far away, Dudley has forward medium punch, which on crouch hit is +1, right? But if the opponent is blocking all the time, it's -1. But it's still not that bad, because you get to parry, and in most cases, for where you're using this button, you'll be out of throw range. Now, forward medium kick is an important button, and the reason for this is because if you do like crouch short into forward medium kick, your opponent can't do anything. They can't throw you, right? So, from this distance, your opponent has to worry about, you walking forward and doing a Kara throw. Or they have to worry about you immediately going for sweep. But these options don't really exist without ticking your opponent, right? And your tick is a high. So, in most situations here, you can opt to go for pressure if you think that your opponent isn't going to react to the duck, with duck off of this, or off of crouching medium punch. Now, depending on how far away you are for a crouching medium punch, as an example, you're out of range of throw. So this is why a lot of Dudleys will do stuff like this. Because they want you to miss your punish up. Because throw obviously isn't a punish. And a lot of people just sort of get very antsy when Dudley's doing this sort of pressure. And not every character has the ability to really hard punish Dudley for making this decision. But the higher level that you get, moves like forward medium kick, forward medium punch, and crouching medium punch are used a lot more. And all of these are plus. So crouching medium punch puts him relatively far away, right? So it's why you'll most often see crouching medium punch duck versus duck off of forward medium kick. Because if you're not spaced perfectly, you're going to get thrown by a lot of characters, especially if they carrot throw. So this move in general actually opens up a lot of things, because when you tick your opponent, you're still plus, but they can't throw you because you're too far away in most of these scenarios. And it's enough pushback to push you back to the position that you started your forward medium kick with. So this is why if you're point blank, you'll still get thrown. But if you take one step back and do it, you're out of throw range. For most characters, or a lot of characters, I should say. So stuff like this opens up sweep. It opens up crouching light kick. It opens up stand roundhouse frame trap. And it also opens up, you know, this sort of a target combo, which isn't used very often. But in general, because you're ticking here, your opponent's usually blocking low. So now your opponent has to figure out what you want to do. Do you want to go for the throw yourself? Do you want to go for the forward roundhouse and go right into super? Or do you want to walk up and crouching light kick? Now, this at this range, right, is very easy to allow you to get a carrot throw from forward medium punch or forward jab. So Dudley, just like Ken, has a good high tick into throw, and he also has a good low tick into throw with crouching light kick. Now, crouching light kick actually has a relatively far pushback. It pushes you out of throw range for a lot of characters point blank. They have to micro step forward first. So stuff like this actually works as well. So low conditioning with Dudley is a possibility, but it's not usually the case, because all of his specials really cancel off of his highs. When your opponent isn't blocking, you know, you can combo off of stand roundhouse. You can technically combo off of forward fierce into super and stuff. And then you also have your, you know, jump-ins and all this sort of stuff. And all of this stuff is high, right? The only thing that you can really do here is short super. Otherwise, the only reason that your opponent would have to worry about lows is with the 15 frame sweep. So if you're able to sweep your opponent, you know, you're able to get a good amount of damage meter, and then you get your Oki. And this is why it's important when you have meter to be able to mix things up. Because being able to do the dart shot into super is one of the things that you have to condition your opponent to look for. If your opponent doesn't fear your highs or want to high parry, or fear your throw to want to guard jump, to which case you can do your sweep at a timing that would hit them, or your crouching short, then these tools don't really matter all that much. You can frame trap with stuff like this, if your opponent likes to guess, but that's only if you're conditioning them with highs off of this, because you can use crouching light kick as a way to set up your dart shot into super, right? Just as you can use the forward medium kick into dart shot super. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider when you are looking to condition your opponent with Dudley. Because you can go right into a frame trap into standing roundhouse, or you can go right into another crouching light kick. Right? So that crouching light kick, micro step forward, crouching light kick is an option for Dudley. You can also frame trap, or quote-unquote frame trap, into your sweep. You can also whiff this in a situation that makes your sweep a little bit harder to deal with, because they will have to react to that decision that you made to press a button. And in that exact same scenario, you know, you might whiff that low and then just immediately go for a throw. Or you might whiff that low and then buffer your EX machine gun blow off of a standing roundhouse. And if that roundhouse hits, then there goes half their life. But even if you're starting to open your opponent up with lows, unless they fear your decisions after your highs, then there's nothing that they need to actually worry about. And in the same vein, unless you're throwing off of your lows, then they don't really have to worry about your highs either, unless you have meter, in which case universal overhead, will work into super. Same thing as dart shot. So, you can do like short to set up universal overhead spacing against a lot of characters. And if you set it up correctly, you can combo crouching medium punch into duck super. So the point is, unless you're doing short into super, or you're doing sweep, there's not a whole lot of ways that you're going to get damage off of your lows. You might get a actual like knockdown with crouching medium kick, which is actually not a super common, but it is a tactic that Dudleys use after, forward medium kick or forward medium punch or whatever. Sweep also isn't bad as a decision, as a, I guess, pseudo frame trap, or a conditioning exercise where you're using crouching light kick into a high, such as dart shot, to make the opponent want to stand to block it. Because dart shot is borderline non-reactable because it has a 12 frame startup, whereas universal overhead has a 15 frame startup. So, unlike Yang, where both of his overheads are 15 frames or above, Dudley's overhead into super is very dangerous, simply because it's near unreactable. And the other reason why highs are usually better is because after lows, unless you're just frame trapping right into sweep or launcher, you're going to be in a situation where your opponent can just high parry and then block. Because if you do crouching light kick and then forward medium kick as an example, it's going to be it's not going to be a frame trap necessarily, because crouch short on block, even on hit, is 0, right? So when they block this, unless they have an attack that they feel comfortable contesting the forward medium kick with, or the stand roundhouse, it's very risky to take that risk, because Dudley can option parry after that crouching short. But again, he has dart shot. And if he wants to do something like crouch short, this puts him at a range where the only things that he can hit with is fierce or dart shot. So he can still dart shot super technically, or he can micro step forward before he makes a decision. In which case, if the Goki taps forward and then blocks low, there's nothing that the Goki has to worry about as far as the low attacks go. He'll block them. And if the high comes, like fierce punch or the micro step forward, he'll either parry the forward medium kick or the stand roundhouse, or he'll block it. And then, Dudley gets pushed back with the stand roundhouse. And this is another reason why conditioning with highs is so important with Dudley, is that the pushback of moves is a lot higher with doing stuff like crouch short. Doing stuff like forward medium punch or forward medium kick, or even crouching medium punch, has a little bit less pushback than the other decisions. So when your goal is to stay in your opponent's face and maul them, this button, they all matter a lot. And it's why, like, crouching short is a strong tool, but crouching short, there's no reason to use it unless you have meter, right? Otherwise, the only thing that you really have is your target combo, which is a decent amount of damage, don't get me wrong, but it pushes you back to a position where you have to goaltend. And now your highs are no longer able to be used without walking forward. But the distance that these buttons work at are further away than his lows, unless you want to aim for the crouching medium kick sweep, or pray that they get hit by this. And this is why sometimes getting to this range is fine, because you want your opponent to try to contest with lows of their own, like Goki's crouching medium kick, so that you can whiff punish and get your Kanipan into duck upper. But because you actually have to walk forward to get your crouching, your forward medium kick, or your forward medium punch or whatever to work, that's the only real reason that Goki would try to contest with crouching medium kick. So if you're not making the decisions to move and use these attacks, then Goki has no reason to do anything other than wait for you to make a decision and jump out of the corner. Because more than half of the ways that you get big damage from Dudley come from highs, and the lows don't work until you've conditioned your opponent to fear your throw or your highs, it makes sense that Dudley is a character that mostly just conditions with highs. And like I said before, considering how fast this is, your opponent has to make those decisions to just un-Oki, like if you throw them, they have to worry about this. Just as much as they have to worry about this. But they can't high parry and then block that. They have to commit to one thing or another. And all the while in this exact situation, they have to worry about repeats of the exact same situation. So this is one of the reasons why Dudley is so scary. Because his rock, paper, scissors is truly a rock, paper, scissors. Even though most of his attacks are high parryable, and a couple of them are only low parryable, those lows are very potent when they actually are conditioned to be able to work. If your opponent's just guessing all the time, then feel free to use your lows as much as you want. But because if Kanipan is blocked, you get pushed back very far, this can be a risk to Dudley's game because you lose the positioning that you might want, especially in the corner. So Ken is an interesting character, mostly because most people think of him as a character that conditions with lows. And now, while this is true in many scenarios because his lows are some of his best attacks, specifically on Okizeme, his highs are very deceptive as far as their strength. Because standing medium punch is a frame trap into crouching medium punch, and so is close standing fierce. Technically, because of the pushback, if you try to do a lot of different things, including jump, the crouching medium punch may work. But specifically, if the opponent tries to parry this standing heavy punch, you can buffer heavy punch DP, and as you see, it didn't come out. But if they parry, it will. So if I do heavy punch DP after the heavy punch, just raw, I'm going to get punished by every character in the game incredibly hard. This is why you'll do a standing fierce punch into a delayed heavy punch DP as an option select, where if the opponent actually decides that they want to parry, the amount of active frames, or cancel frames I should say, which will allow the DP to occur, are extended because of their parry, which is why it actually comes out. And if they don't block, then they get hit. And most players, when they parry, are looking specifically to try and take advantage of a decision that you're making. And why they might high parry is because of the fact that you can be doing target combo, or you can be doing a close standing medium punch as a tick throw. Now, one of the other things that he has is he has his back medium kick into super against characters, and while this is technically reactable at 18 frames, it's something that some players make very good use of. And it's something that you have to show your opponent you're still willing to do sometimes because, well, you want to see if they can react to it. And this is another high attack. However, lows like confirming into DP is very simple off of close standing medium punch as a frame trap of sorts, because this is +1. And in a lot of situations, when you're doing close strong and it's +1, you know, you can do target combo. You can actually just straight go into EX Hado if you feel like it, but it's not always the best decision. And if you try to delay, it has to be very specifically timed so that you will actually get the Hado if they parry. But if you do the Hado as opposed to the DP, you're gonna get hit in most cases. So it's why trying to do option select things off of anything but standing heavy punch isn't very smart. But the other thing is, close standing heavy punch doesn't actually leave you very far away from your opponent. Whereas if you do short short, you're actually far enough away where you have to take an entire, like 2 steps forward, versus making the decision to walk forward and go for a target combo, or go for a crouching medium punch, or whatever it may be. So Ken can condition from all 3 things, from highs, from lows, and from throws, right? But it's important to note that even if I hold back after this throw, specifically against some characters, I'm going to get thrown. So what this means is that Ken is forced to be in a situation where if he wants to get out of the range of throw, he has to actually commit to a backdash. So if he wants to bait throw, he can't even walk forward, because he'll get thrown out of the start of his backdash. So this is why most of the time when you throw as Ken, you're doing a meaty of some sort. Because you're close enough to almost every character in the game that you're just going to get scooped. There are some characters that will not be in his throw range. However, if you use close standing medium punch on block and then use it as a tick throw, you're far enough away that your opponent can't actually do anything, right? So when starting this sort of scenario, you're opening up your opponent from either the crouching light kick or the standing medium punch. Now, if your opponent has perfect execution, then you're going to be able to tech their throw, and you're going to end up under the timer. Now, if you use close standing medium punch, their throw starts up, and if you get, because you're +1, if you have frame perfect inputs, you'll scoop them. You can also use this as a way of punishing them for making that decision to throw. Now, because after an attack, a high specifically, your opponent is going to want to get out of dodge, because they can technically guard jump here. So if you try to do something like this, and they guard jump, it's not necessarily going to work. But if you go for the throw and they guard jump, it absolutely will. So this is why stuff like slightly delaying your crouching short short, or using crouching medium kick at a proper timing, because if you just straight up go crouching medium kick immediately afterward, and they mash throw, you're going to lose. So this is why it's important to understand the decisions that are being made, and why, you know, conditioning off of crouching short short is good, but you're now far enough out of range where you have to walk forward to be able to do standing medium punch. You're in range for crouching medium kick, but that puts you back out of range and you have to walk back into it, and now throw is no longer a decision. So your opponent has a lot less to actually worry about here, because unless you're doing carry universal overhead or something, there's no real threat of super. All they have to worry about is you doing like dash or something, right? And if you do dash too close and they throw, you end up getting screwed, right? So this is why you'll see dashes from lows as well. And Emperor Punch, or Crouching Medium Punch, I always consider as high. It's technically both a high and a low because it's parryable in both directions. But this move frame traps into itself. Very simply. Because you're +2. So when you're going for different frame traps, whether it be, you know, standing heavy punch into crouching medium punch, or close standing medium punch into crouching medium punch, because this starts up faster than crouching medium kick does, you're not going to get thrown. And far medium punch also frame traps. I mean, you can also do close standing medium punch as well, depending on how close you are. And as you see here, I can basically tap forward and immediately go for a medium punch, fierce punch target combo, and it'll meaty my opponent in the middle of their throw. And this is why crouch tech and guard jump are the most common scenarios used against this. But because if you're conditioning your opponent to look for the close standing medium punch, and it's also a way that you can start using target combo once you have meter to look to use that meter for Shippu, the opponent then has to respect your lows more. Because if they're trying to high parry now, your crouching short opens up. Your crouching medium kick super opens up. Crouching medium kick confirm into DP opens up. So if you're able to get your opponent to commit to something, whether it's frame trapping against their crouch tech, or trying to hit them in the middle of their guard jump attempt, or whatever it may be, the DP will kill a lot of characters, right? And although it's harder against some characters than others because it requires that Kara, like I just did here, it's something that your opponent does have to respect, even if you don't have meter. But there's no reason for them to look to do anything other than block unless you are throwing them or using these highs in order to get them to make that guess parry, or to get them to stand up for some reason, whether it's to guard jump or do something else. So right now Remy is set to guard jump, and if I try to like walk forward and throw him, it's not going to work, right? So the only way for me to open up my opponent at this point is to delay my attacks. Now, some sort of situations I can't really show off of this, so I have to sort of be creative, I guess. But basically here, if you delay your crouching medium kick enough, you can hit your opponent, and then you can get DP, like I showed earlier. But this doesn't open up unless you make them think that you're going to go for that throw, or make them think that you're going to do something else. So as soon as your opponent commits to a high parry here, this is when your crouching medium kick opens up. And as soon as your opponent is conditioned to look for this, that's when this opens up. So you have to choose one way or another to condition your opponent. And Ken has a lot more options off of highs than he does off of lows, unless he has meter. Because unless you're playing against specific characters where you're able to do like crouch jab, crouch short DP, there's not a lot you can get if your opponent guesses high without using a crouching medium kick confirm DP. But if your opponent is guessing a low because they respect Ken's lows, like crouching short and crouching medium kick, or they're trying to guard jump or something, then you're able to do, you know, DPs, or you're able to do EX Fireball or Super or whatever it is. Because some characters you can get that DP and others you can't. But you can also, you know, use stuff like back medium kick here, where yeah, you can be thrown out of it, but they have to be looking for it, right? If they're just guard jumping after this, they're going to get smacked down, back down to the ground. And it's the same thing with standing roundhouse here, is that if they're guard jumping, this is an auto hit. Because this, as a meaty right into close to, or just standing roundhouse, because of the startup time of stand roundhouse, it's going to hit them automatically. Standing medium kick won't unless you delay it. And you can delay it quite a bit, and then try to hit them when they're jumping. So if you like do this and then walk back, you know, there's the opportunity for you to hit your opponent with standing medium kick as well, or stand roundhouse. So if you take that step back, there's a chance that you'll, you know, hit him on the way up with stand roundhouse, or you have a little bit longer to wait before stand medium kick. And then at this exact time, you know, you can choose to come back in and hit them on the way down, or you can choose to like option parry and then throw. Because as long as you're doing Hado walk from this distance, you're going to be able to high parry when they're coming down. And even though, you know, walk forward, parry, and then throw is not like the best punish to someone coming down from the sky, you can get your double DP on a majority of the cast. So you really get to open up your offense that way. So if you DP, you're further away from your opponent. So far medium punch will work. And without actually moving, crouching short works against a lot of characters. But you do have the ability to actually move back and forth. So depending on what you're doing as far as timing goes, you can get meaties of all sorts of varieties, right? You can get short, you can get crouch medium kick, medium fierce into that option select if you want to. You have all of Ken's toolkit available to you, and you don't need to worry about the throw situation where if they throw you and you walk backwards, you're just going to get screwed. So, you know, highs off of this may be just as potent as the lows, but because there's more space to manipulate, the opponent is going to be looking for different things. And depending on the character that they're playing, conditioning with far standing medium punch as a hit confirm into super is just as potent as using crouching medium kick in a lot of cases. Because you actually have a lot more time off of far medium punch than you do off of crouching medium kick. Very similar to crouching medium punch, which is also available to you from the spacing. Or you can walk back and then be out of range of decisions of your opponent and be able to use that button as well. Same with your lows. But highs are usually stronger the closer you are to your opponent, because just doing crouching medium kick point blank is a pretty risky thing as far as looking for confirms goes, unless you've mastered the DP confirm. Variations in your jump decisions are very important, and one of the things that, especially in North America, you see, the first thing to understand is that from a normal jump distance, like a round start spacing sort of situation, there are 3 timings at which you can hit your opponent. The first timing hits Urian in the head, the second timing hits Urian in the chest, and the third timing hits Urian sort of in the lower abdomen area right above where his thong starts, right? So there's these 3 different heights and they all have to be defended differently, which is why it can be difficult to parry jump-ins, because you only have so many frames to actually do this, and those frames don't overlap the 3 different timings at which your opponent can hit you. So the other thing to understand is that for characters like Dudley, at this distance, not only does he have different timings, but he has different buttons and different purposes. As you can see here, the jump roundhouse hits a lot lower and at a different timing than the jumping heavy punch does. So there's even more variation here. But on top of that, you have different choices like jumping medium kick, and you have the ability to empty jump. Now, empty jumping in is something that is used a lot, especially in mid-level play, where you're trying to bait your opponent to do something, and then you're trying to get in and, you know, land and throw or something. But when you're outside of this range, you know, you're not able to do a whole lot. So being able to empty jump short is very distance dependent. And it's the same thing with other decisions. You know, like you can empty jump and then go for a hit confirm off of a standing medium punch. Or you can do the same thing off of a crouching medium punch. Right? But these things don't really fit as far as what Dudley wants to do in a lot of cases. Because his goal is to get in safely. And if he mixes up his timing here, he can maintain space and pressure with that forward medium kick. Or he can maintain, you know, the crouching light kick off of this. So your opponent has to guess a lot, especially if they block. Because you can immediately go into dart shot, and if they try to block thinking that, you know, crouching short, or sweep or something might come, then they're going to get completely screwed over by that hit confirm. So from this sort of distance, you can early jump roundhouse, and then confirm super. And this is something that other characters have, like Ken, right? Where he can jump back in the corner and early roundhouse, or jump forward early roundhouse, and still manage to get a DP or a super off of it. But the further away you get, the less options that you have. So distance really gives your opponent the ability to understand when you can attack him how. So you can't early jump roundhouse, or early jump fierce punch, I guess I should say, from this distance as Dudley. The only thing that you can do is late attack. So, and if you do late attack, it's the only way that you can actually get that combo into stand roundhouse. So there's not a whole lot that you can do from this distance, which is why you'll see empty jumps or just meter building into, you know, walking into range. And the walking into range of different things is very important for Dudley, whereas other characters can use other tools to get different spacings for their jumps. Like, certain characters have better dashes. Other characters have dive kicks. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can do. But from back here, if you empty jump, you know, you might barely be in range for crouching light kick. And the further back that you are, where you're able to scroll the screen, where your opponent's not moving, you know, that's when crouching short doesn't work, and you have to jump in and basically block. But this is fine. It gets you close to your opponent, and it gives you that opportunity to make a guess into big damage. But conditioning your opponent, you don't really condition them a lot off of things. However, you can condition them that you're going to empty jump, parry, block, and then when they're conditioned to do this and react to this with like throw or walk back crouch medium kick or something, you can end up using this jumping fierce. But you can either use the jumping fierce as the thing to condition them, but because this only hits at one timing, it's very easy to sort of allow your opponent to know when to parry. And if the player is smart, they can option parry, block, and then jump away, which in some cases is exactly what Dudley wants because it forces them closer to the corner. So there's two main ways that you can actually condition your opponent with jumps, right? Empty jump and attacks. And it's better when there's different variations in timing at which you can actually hit your opponent. So from this spacing, you know, I can hit him high, I can hit him mid, I can hit him very low with jump roundhouse, and at slightly different timings. And like I said before, it makes it so that parrying is a little bit harder. And for characters like this, there are technically option selects against the decisions that Dudley wants to make, with using parry block. So the other thing that you have to understand is what each timing actually gives you. So if you do early jump heavy punch with Dudley, you don't get anything off of this, right? Forward medium kick doesn't combo. Neither does crouching light kick. So even though you're +5 advantage, you still have to land, and you might only be +1. So when you're attacking at this high of a height, your opponent isn't usually going to be parrying at this timing. And the reason for that is because you don't get anything off of it. There's no reason to be. At least if they're smart. So there's a lot of assumptions that need to be made, in that your opponent is going to be looking for what gives you the most benefit, which is situations where you can get that forward medium kick into uppercut, or stand roundhouse into EX machine gun blow. So when you're jumping, you can choose to condition them with that empty jump, or with that jump in. And in the same way that you look for decisions that your opponent is making, and you are gathering that information, you have to use that information more immediately with jumps than you might in other situations. Because the amount of variation that you have in your jumps is less than you have on the ground, as far as like Oki situations and all that stuff. But jumps even on Oki can be very strong for a lot of characters, like Ken or Yun, which we'll go over in a bit. But for characters that need variation in neutral for their jumps, understanding the different options that you have and why you would use them and when is important. Because if you're not able to make a situation like this occur, then there's no point to doing the jumping medium kick. Because the whole point of the jumping medium kick is to do it a lot later than you might normally use the jumping fierce punch. And it allows you to hit extremely late when the jumping roundhouse won't even work. So when you gather information about what timing your opponent is looking to defend, either with parry, do they want to block, do they want to jump away, do they want to contest your decision, all of that matters. And this is why if you're empty jumping and parrying, understanding that the opponent could anti-air you is a thing, right? And it could be a check for information. But the same thing could happen if you do different varied timings in your jump-ins. Because if your opponent, you know that your opponent likes to parry in the middle timing, so that they can cover the most damage that Dudley can do, this is when the early jump roundhouse into super ends up working for you. So conditioning your opponent with your jumps is more about the information gathering than it is the conditioning portion. However, because you're conditioning your opponent to look for the jump period, the idea that you have different variations and choices is important. And the reason for this is because at this sort of spacing you can be conditioning your opponent to look for your jump. However, if you're at the same sort of spacing, they have to worry about walk-up stand medium punch, or they have to worry about walk-up stand roundhouse, or at the same spacing they have to worry about micro-step crouch medium kick in order to contest some of the decisions that they might be making, because certain characters are going to look to fill the screen to stop you from walking forward, and force you to make that jump as well. So if you're forced into the situation where you have to make these decisions, having that different timing variation matters a lot. And being able to condition your opponent to look for certain times means that they're looking for certain defensive options. So now we're going to take a look at the defense against Dudley's jumps as an example. So if you are, worried about Dudley jumping, and you're a Dudley player, you have to worry about how your opponent likes to defend. And this is why the information gathering portion of your decision on how you want to condition them is very important. Because, Yun here can parry and get the parry on that early jump roundhouse, or jump fierce. And he can parry block, and he can crouch. So now he can whiff punish this with crouching medium punch up kicks. But the more common timing means that he would block it if he does this parry block option select. And this is exactly what Dudley wants, because he ends up in a situation where Yun has now blocked, and he now is plus enough that he gets to decide how he wants to continue. He can either go with crouch short short, dart shot, forward medium kick, backswing blow, throw. There's a lot of decisions that Dudley can make. So timing variations matter a lot, right? Because I can parry block and deal with this sort of option select, but it's at a different timing than the situation where I'm looking for that crouch under. And the specific timing that I have set up here, the crouch under is much harder. And if I react to the jump too late, I'm going to end up getting hit. So this is why understanding that parry guard in general is very important. Because as Dudley can get all of these decisions if you end up blocking this, he still has to worry about, you parrying and being able to get a hard punish as well. So it's important to note that if I do the timing 1 parry guard, there's a chance that I end up getting hit, right? If I react too late. But if I parry guard for timing 2, I'm able to get it, which this allows me to still get a punish, right? And this is not what Dudley wants, obviously. And if I do it fast enough, I'm still able to crouch this timing. If I'm able to react to the jump fast enough, I'm still able to punish. Now, if I try to do this against a Dudley that's doing later jumping heavy punches, that jumping heavy punch is going to hit me while I'm grounded. However, Dudley has to hard commit to this decision because it's relatively unsafe to do this because it's the last timing for parry. So if your opponent's just blocking low and waiting for you to jump, this is the easiest parry for your opponent to get. However, if they are parry blocking and they try to parry at timing 2, they're going to block timing 3, which is the one that will hit you when you're crouching. So if your opponent is very good at getting the reads on the mid timing and the early timing to get the crouch, jumping fierce or roundhouse actually just completely hits them and gets you that combo that you wanted. So if Dudley is conditioning with jump in fierce punch and sees that their opponent is starting to do this sort of option select in order to allow them to punish him, then it means that changing his decision into a jumping roundhouse instead of a jumping fierce punch is going to allow him to get the outcome that he wants. And if the opponent stand blocks instead, it'll end up just getting blocked, which gives him the in that he needs to get his mix-up going. And this is the exact reason that jumping medium kick can actually work. Because if you try to do timing 2, and he does his medium kick, his hurt box is pulled up a little more so it hits a little later. So it'll either hit you on the way down between your guard and your crouch, if that's how you want to defend against this, or it will give him that in that he needs just like that jump roundhouse. So understanding your opponent's defensive habits is very important. However, if he tries to do this and tries to do it too late, he ends up getting just anti-aired for it. So it's a fine line between figuring out on offense as Dudley how your opponent likes to defend and mixing things up enough, because if the opponent is paying attention, there will be enough variance to allow them to make different choices to make mind games happen between the two of you. And that's eventually the goal of both players, is to make every situation sort of not guaranteed, but if you're conditioning your opponent with specific jump normals, so other things open up that may not work otherwise, especially if you're playing mind games. Because if you're consistently just conditioning with jump and fierce, that late jump in medium kick or that late jump in or that mid jump in roundhouse will work if the opponent specifically likes to defend like this. But if they like to parry guard jump, where they do something like this, it's gonna beat other options as well. So even if Yun decides that he wants to jump, even if he gets hit by this jumping fierce punch, it's still good for him because it pushes him so far away. And now you're back to neutral and Yun can decide how he wants to position. So even though a situation may be bad, where he goes for this air jump parry situation and it doesn't work out for him and he takes damage, it still may put him in the positioning screen-wise that he wants to be in. And it's why these sort of decisions make more sense based on specific positioning on the stage, because if they get cornered, it's a lot easier for Dudley then to keep him cornered or pressure him to keep him in the corner, and making decisions to try to get out, versus going to a place where, you know, Yun's not cornered here and Dudley still has to make a hard read to get in. Whether it's with a super jump or, you know, a dash up or walking or whatever it is that he needs to do. This is neutral. And Yun has plenty of ways to deal with Dudley. Both twins have setups in which case they can force the opponent to make a guess, whether it's going to be in the front, in behind, or whatever, and it's not necessarily just with dive kick. However, dive kick plays a part. In order to showcase this, I'm going to be using standing medium kick into dash punch, and this is meant to simulate the sort of ender scenario where against a lot of characters, Yun will get that dash punch and will get this sort of a set play. And this is a scenario that happens a lot, and specifically it's used a lot from Yang as well, off of EX Rekka. But in general, the whole concept is you walk forward and then you neutral jump. And this roundhouse that I've done here will either combo into crouching medium punch into dash punch, or into this. Or, if the jump heavy punch, or jump roundhouse I should say, is parried, it's a safe jump. Which means that Yun can block, and if Chun-Li tries to do crouch medium kick super or something, it's not going to work. All the opponent can try to do is throw. In which case you can still tech because it's a safe jump. So there's other ways that this can go. And the main important one is this, where at the exact same timing as the jump roundhouse, you can get a cross-up dive kick that will combo into your decisions on the other side. You can also force a situation where you land as the opponent is getting up, and unless they expect this and they don't try to block and they just mash throw, you're going to end up in a situation where you get the ability to act against your opponent. And this is a situation where against some characters, you might see crouching medium kick into roundhouse up kicks or something to get to the other side. And you'll see this a lot against characters like Urian or something because the punishes that they can get aren't very strong. And it's the same sort of thing against Chun-Li. If she doesn't have meter, the only thing that she can really do is walk up and fierce you. So if you don't actually walk forward, you can force a meaty situation. And you can also force them to make a guess where, if you do this light kick, dive kick as an example, I just did super jump cancel Zempo tension and was able to grab her out of her grab attempt. And this is where the mind game of what's going to happen, is she going to try to throw, is she going to press a button, all of that stuff exists. Which is where, you know, double dive kick sort of stuff opens up, or dive kick into neutral jump parry on the way down and then making a decision. And depending on how the opponent likes to deal with this, they can, you know, sit there, or they can try to walk under or dash under or whatever. But other options exist with this jumping fierce punch, which will beat a stand roundhouse and stuff as they're trying to wake up. So different choices give you different options, because if you just, you know, neutral jump, you can dive kick to the other side, you can dive kick in front, and you can also hit them in the front for a frame trap. And you can also combo. So there's a lot of different variation that comes from just staying in front, depending on how you use this. Whether you make that walk or you don't, your options change, but you still have different things that you can condition your opponent to look for based on that jump. And in general, they just have to look for that jump, period. But the other thing to understand is that you can literally just empty jump, right? So in this exact situation, you can just put them in a very similar situation that they have to deal with. Because here you can walk up and you can neutral jump and you can go left-right with different dive kicks. Or you can do the same thing with a jump forward, where the opponent now has to worry about the light kick dive kick, which whiffs in front, a roundhouse dive kick which goes behind, or, you know, a regular sort of jump-in situation that they have to deal with from the front. But in general, because there's a lot of these different decisions that can be made, the opponent also has to worry about you just empty jump parrying and then blocking as you're coming down. Because if you empty jump, you know, you can still throw, right? So they have to worry about this, and then depending on how much you actually walk up, you may or may not be in throw range, depending on if they carrot or not, or on what character you're playing against. So you can also just neutral jump, light kick, dive kick immediately, and set up a meaty situation against a lot of characters. So they have to look for that walk forward, and they have to look for, you know, a couple other things. So you can condition them just to look for that jump and then stay grounded. And the way that this works is that when you get this dash punch, you take that step forward and then you whiff once to make them, or to give them something to look at the same timing that you would make the jump happen. And then you have the ability to meaty them still, and they have to guess between high-low, and you still have the opportunity to jump. So, in this case, because I jumped late, Chun-Li can act and make a decision, which I'll have to parry and all that stuff. But in other situations, that may just not be the case. So right now I have Chun-Li set to wake up and do roundhouse, right? So I can do this cross-up. I can also delay my jump timing so that if she tries to wake up with that button immediately, that I'll be above it, and I can come down with my jumping roundhouse. So there's a lot of timing variation that can be added to this as well. Whereas if I just do the normal set play, I can parry before my normal roundhouse in front, and parry this and get a hard punish. So it's a risky situation to be on the other side of, because not every character has ways to deal with this. And even if you're a character like Ken, Yun can just neutral jump Fierce Punch at a very delayed timing, just like he does here, where it beats the standing roundhouse from Chun, and it will combo. But against a Shoto, like Ken, the DP will just whiff. So against Ken, you get something very similar, where instead of the neutral jump roundhouse, he has to worry about something else. Because if he does not do the DP, and you come down with medium kick instead, it will allow you to combo. And you can also cross up to the other side. In which case, the DP completely whiffs and you get a hard punish as well. So while conditioning your opponent with jumps is a thing, it's also something that is heavily dependent on the character's tools. But you do have ways to adapt it based on those tools as shown here. So the ability to just sort of like make your opponent play mind games with you, essentially, by just doing the same thing repeatedly, is how you condition them to make specific decisions. You neutral jump, and then you make them hard commit to a defense. And this is a little unfair because this particular situation is essentially rock, paper, scissors. But it exists for a lot of other characters as well. You know, Ken has jump forward, medium kick, and then the opponent has to decide how they want to defend. Do they want to try to guard jump? And if they do, if the Ken slightly delays his, you know, short after the jumping medium kick, then it's going to hit you. And then he gets his super confirm. So there are a lot of ways that other characters can use jumps, like Goki with his safe jump fireball, or particular setups for his dive kick as well. And it's just funky to deal with for a lot of characters and a lot of players. The concept here is that your character has so many options that you can cycle through your decisions and force your opponent to basically be conditioned to not know what to expect. I'm going to use Yun's dash punch as an example here. And the reason for this is because you can set up meaties very easily by using frame kills. So your opponent should be expecting these frame kills and look to quick rise or not quick rise depending on your habits, right? However, depending on what they're doing, you still have all the choices in the world. Because in this particular situation, Chun-Li is set to throw, right? So if I knock her down, I can backstep after whiffing 2 close standing medium punches, and then I'm able to punish that decision. And if they try to crouch tech, she is just going to block. So I'm not really risking a whole lot to make that sort of a decision unless they decide that they want to late parry. In this situation, she has to worry about that high meaty, right? But she also has to worry about me deciding that I'm going to jump. Because I have a lot of different decisions that I can make off of this jump. And if she's not committed to blocking and she's just straight making a guess, that jump is very successful in a lot of cases. Because I can just sort of empty jump and parry on the way down, similar to the situation that I just showed before. Now, as I showed you before, you can get far medium punch into a meaty of your choice. So the opponent has to worry about different frame kills in order to make different decisions. Because the decisions behind this and the decisions behind this can technically be the exact same thing. And they have to worry about what they're seeing in front of them and what can come next. Because as an example, I can do super jump cancel Zempo tension off of that double whiff. And even if she tries to throw, it doesn't matter. And the same thing exists off of that far standing medium punch. So it's very much a rock, paper, scissors scenario where the Chun-Li player really has to decide what they want to do. Because if I decide that I just want to, whiff twice and then throw, or whiff once and then walk forward and throw, I'm able to do that too. And I'm able to punish in the same way that I showed before, from multiple things. So in this situation, I can, walk up and then use Crouching Light Punch to force the opponent to make a read. And I can do it later and later and later. Where, as long as it's at a timing where she's not throwing the recovery of my move, then it forces the opponent to sort of kind of sit there. Very similar to the situation that I was showcasing earlier, where if you get that knockdown from this, and then you walk up, and then you whiff once, you sort of get that timing for that meaty. Right? So the exact same scenario can show different things. I can do that whiff into a super jump cancel Zempo, or I can do that whiff into a crouching short. And depending on when that whiff comes, it may allow for a meaty or it may not. But because I can make other decisions, like dive kick 1, 2, 3, that actually works as a meaty, the opponent has to worry about more things. Same thing with close standing medium punch, or crouching short. After that dive kick, they have to worry about those things. They have to worry about Zempo. They have to worry about throw. They have to worry about rejump. Because there are so many options, if I'm playing rock, paper, scissors essentially with my opponent and just cycling through things, it's a legitimate guess as to what I'm going to do. Because if they're guard jumping and I, walk back, walk forward after a decision and then do my close standing medium punch, something like this, then they're going to get hit. And it's the same thing if I, whiff and then do micro step forward crouching medium kick, or micro step forward standing medium kick, or whatever it is. So as long as you're incorporating something that beats all of the defensive options that you expect that caliber of opponent to do, then you can just sort of make them guess all the time. If you want to condition with throw as an example, you can tick low, right? You can tick high. You can use standing light punch as a quote-unquote high tick, even though it's low parryable. You can just straight throw and then walk up, wait out of throw range, and then walk up, throw again, right? Or you can side kick throw. There's a lot of different ways that you can literally throw your opponent, and that includes using Zempo. So you can gather information through variation in a lot of different ways. But if you want to just throw caution to the wind and you just want to go, bro, we're playing rock, paper, scissors, guess, that's a perfectly viable strategy, especially for characters that have a plethora of decisions off the same knockdowns like twins do. And that's one of the reasons why, a lot of players hate fighting against twins, is because it's quote-unquote set play into set play. Because I can do the same thing over and over and over again, where, I whiff once and then I make a decision, or I whiff twice and I make a decision. Or I don't whiff at all and I make a decision. So they have to worry about a lot of different things, right? They have to worry about, is that dive kick that I crossed up with going to allow him to meaty or not? They have to worry about, is that dive kick that he's going to do delayed enough so that it crosses me up? Or am I going to be able to throw him like I just did here? They have a lot of things to worry about literally just from jump, right? Because I'm able to get that hit from the front. I'm able to get that hit from behind. I'm able to empty jump so that I do nothing, and I'm out of her throw range unless she carries. And on top of that, she has to worry about what happens if I stay grounded. If I whiff once, is he going to jump? Is he going to walk back? Is he going to meaty me? Is this meaty going to be high or low? Is he going to Zempo? Is he going to throw? There's so many different decisions that the opponent needs to make, and they actually need to do their due diligence, essentially, and figure out what you're trying to condition them with. But if you are just cycling through options going rock, paper, scissors, go, there's nothing that they're going to be able to read as far as conditioning goes. So if you're not repeating the options, you're conditioning by literally making them second guess all of their decisions. Because if I jump on my first knockdown, right, and then I whiff on my second knockdown, and I dive kick on my third knockdown, That's 3 different decisions, right? And then if I walk forward and I walk back, if I walk back and I walk forward, and if they get knocked down from a Gnagen, they have to worry about movement. And they also have to worry about movement, you know, after a throw. Because this will allow you to mix things up. You know, you can go to the other side. You can hit in the front for combo. You can whiff a dive kick. You can walk up even more and get your meaty, which I just missed. But you get the idea. There's so many different variations that bleed into one another. Because you may have walked up the first time from this, but you may dive kick in the second time and go for that meaty. And depending on the character that you're playing against, there's obviously all these different options that work and don't work. And it's up to you as the player to know them. But if you literally have 100 different options that can be used, and you're never using the same decision twice, there's literally no way to guess what you're doing, unless you have a particular habit of favoring doing highs or doing lows or doing throws. But again, if it's pseudo-random, they literally just have to guess. And at the same time, that's when the opponent will start to parry more, because it's frustrating. Or might start to do such a thing. Or they may just consider just blocking. In which case other things open up. And in Yun's case, them actually taking more time to make defensive decisions means that he's able to build meter on block. Which is great, and it helps him get Gnagen more. Characters with huge variety in decisions in ways that you can accomplish the exact same choice that you're looking to go for, while giving your opponent different looks. As an example, the far medium punch versus close medium punch whiffs, or Dudley using his forward medium kick, or stand medium punch, or stand roundhouse, or just walking. It doesn't really matter. As far as how you want to set up your meaty, it's just how is your opponent interpreting the information that you're giving them. If you whiff a bunch of times high, does it make them think you want to go high? If you whiff crouching medium punches instead, or crouching light punches instead, does it make them think you want to go low? Does it make them block? Do they forget guard jump? All of these things are things that you can get as little pieces of information when going through all of these different options that you have available to you. And it's why in tournaments, it's very hard to condition your opponent, because if you're pseudo-random, there's literally no way that they can sort of adapt to your decisions unless you're intentionally doing things in a way that allows that to happen. Or, like I said before, if you have subconscious habits about going low more often than high, not throwing when you have meter, all sorts of different things. Because the best example is that if Yun has the ability to activate, and he's standing right in front of you on knockdown, what are you going to do? So when I have meter, Chun-Li has to worry about crouching medium kick activation into a combo. She has to worry about close standing medium kick into an activation. Look at how much damage that leads to for an optimized Yun combo. 38 out of 160 life left. She took like 75% of her life for missing one parry. And this is why the only thing that they can really hope for is that they know what your habits are and how you like to make them. Whether it's you're a Chun-Li player and you like to use crouching medium kick as your confirm because you're not as solid for back fierce, or you're not as comfortable with close standing roundhouse, or whatever it might be. Because even though the Chun-Li here has to worry about high-low, she can block both of them, right? But she can't block a throw, in which case I can just walk up and activate. Or, you know, I can dash up, activate, and immediately go for my mix-up. And then off of this, I have mix-ups from highs and lows. So if they just try to guess, they're screwed. And it's the same way for so many other characters, where, you know, Ken can go for short, or you can go for medium fierce target combo, or Dudley can go for dart shot, or he can get damage off of sweep, or he can go for crouch short super. Chun can get back fierce, close stand roundhouse, crouching medium kick, far medium punch. All of these different ways to use their resources. And it's all about how the player wants to use them. Does the Yun player have a habit of doing shoulder? Do they like using that shoulder in order to make it so that you have to now guess between close standing medium punch into delayed shoulder, or close standing medium punch into crouching medium kick? Because if this happens, you know, you can still get a combo off of that crouch short. And it's the same thing if, you know, they block this. Does the Yun player like to early Zempo? When do I jump? All of this stuff. Variation matters a lot, no matter what you're doing in the game. It just, the more options that you have for any given situation, especially on Okuzeme, the harder it is to defend.